How Bizarre is intended for mature, open-minded audiences only. If you are easily offended, we suggest you turn this wacky shit straight off. Fucking scanner's going crazy today. It's weird how there's just some days. And today is one of those days. So a little bit later on, Chris will be bringing us some comments from ye old Facebook. And I've got a little stack of emails to get to. So lots of feedback tonight and a few news stories. And if you guys got anything you want to bring up, anytime works. And it sounds like we might have a special round of Weird Triv coming up. Am I right?
Yeah, I've for a long while I've wanted to start to poll a listener or a friend or somebody we know in for weird triv, strange triv, and the idea I think is they will play for themselves. They will play as like a fan or a listener. Mm-hmm. Tonight. Bats is going to join us, my best friend, mother of my child, awesome human being. She's going to be on, and if she beats you guys. Either she will just be in the championship round representing herself. I think actually she'll just be a name that's in there so that will be played for like normal.
Okay.
We'll work that out. But so she's gonna come on and play it. She's usually my go-to for running this through as a test, and she's hit or miss just as you guys are. So it'll be fun. We're gonna have a fourth in here with us.
Yeah, I think it's time to start mixing some things up here and there. And we'll see how it goes anyway. We could always modify it, but I'm looking forward to a little new blood in the water. No matter what, the slightest variation of anything makes you play differently. Well, I've seen this before.
Oh, you play way differently when more's on the line, it feels like.
Yeah, and yet, I don't know. That doesn't mean I do better, of course.
No, 100%.
I think
it does not.
That's where we got to be clear. And then, of course, after that, we will be talking about Christopher's Record Club pick at the end of the show, and I'm looking forward to this one. And it's funny, I'm sitting looking out my window. I'm kind of like really staring out of it for the first time since I cut down one of my trees, about 90% of it anyway. These big trees out front. I got two trees that are just overgrown. One of them's growing against the house. It's scraping my paint off. And I was worried about cutting it down. It's a big pain, and I wasn't looking forward to it. But now that it's gone, it feels a lot fresher, even though my house is now exposed and it really needs a paint job. But it's nice to have 90% of my view back. Fucking spendy, though. I didn't have to pay for the tree cutting. My neighbors are friends with this fucking crazy guy that just climbs up. He doesn't use ropes. He just gets up there with the fucking chainsaw and starts going to town. He climbs to the end of these branches while he's standing on them and just starts cutting them back. It's insane to watch and highly dangerous, but very efficient. So that part was free, but I priced out hauling the wood away, and that was $1,000. So I'll be doing that myself over the next
slowly but surely,
6 years.
Well, the good thing is that you are kind of out of city limits, so you could have like a burning parties if you want.
Well, once the burn ban is over,
wintertime.
Well, I could use my neighbor as someone. He's got the cherry orchard. So farmers are still allowed to burn. I'm not, even being out of, the thing is, I'm in a funny place because I'm out of the city limits for all of the benefits. Like I can't take I can't take part in free dump day. I don't get that because I'm not in city limits, but I have to get a license for all my pets because I'm in city limits. It's that kind of bullshit. I'm like right on the zone. And, isn't it convenient that none of the perks come my way? Because they say I'm out of the fucking city limits. Like, how can you tell me I'm out of the city limits when it comes to this shit that is inconvenient for you? But all the shit that costs me, of course I'm in the city limits. Because they can make it up. The fucking Humane Society has their own city limits. The county has their own city limits. The city has their own city limits. Fucking irrigation district. There's no such thing as actual city limits. They all have their own, is what it took me like 10 fucking years of living here to find out. I was like, well, they just, they got it worked out for themselves. And I can't really blame them, I guess, but irritating. Also irritating really quickly, and I don't want to go down another COVID rabbit hole because we've talked about it, but something strange happened here, and I'm kind of curious to see if this has started to go viral yet because it just happened, here in Wenatchee. And we had a Wenatchee school board meeting here, and a bunch of anti-masker crowd showed up, obviously not masked up. And, you know, we have the government mandates. I don't know what's going on in the rest of the country right now, honestly, in concerning masking or social, if things are ramping back in the other direction. But here in Washington State, we had to go back to wearing masks indoors as a mandate. It's not an option now, whether you're vaccinated or not. And we've been there that just rolled over. We've known about it for a week or so, but it just rolled over Monday. And this was Tuesday that the meeting happened. And Wednesday, today, when we're recording, is the first day of public school. So as you can imagine, it was a fiery meeting.
Oh, shit.
And so there was this local pastor, though, that put out this video that, among other things, had, he basically said, and I think the headline of his own video, he titled it like, "Jesus wants you to take your masks off." And so, and this is one of these like big mega churches here. It's like one of the big centers. This isn't like a small little operation. So that fired up a lot of people, but apparently he tried to rally. He wanted to get 1,000 people to show up to this school board meeting unmasked, and try to bully. Hang on. Is that my Facebook going off?
I'm trying to figure out how that
goes.
Jesus, take the mask.
Anytime some dude just says Jesus wants you to do anything, it's like, just tune out. You don't have to listen.
Jesus wants you to stop listening now.
Yeah. But anyway, so of course 1,000 people weren't going to show up, but about 50 of them did. And there's video of this. And it was getting heated, and all these people were just yelling. And then one guy finally like stood up and got really close to the panel, like the poor school board, just like staff and some volunteers. It's a small school district and it's a small board, and they're just sitting there with their masks on, just trying to like hear everybody out and calmly saying, "We need you all to put your masks on or, leave, because we have to follow the fucking mandates. What do you want us to do? Like we can't overrule what the governor is telling us to do. We're a fucking,
what do you want
we're
to
a
do?
school.
Storm the Capitol about it?
This is a public school. This is not, some hippie, homegrown thing out in the woods. We have to follow very specific ordinances, and go through very specific channels, like having school board meetings. So there are ways of showing up and, airing your grievances, of course, but doing this kind of bullshit. I mean, this was just assholes. And there's one jackass that stood up, and like I said, he was getting more agitated, and finally, like, he just wouldn't stop yelling, and unmasked, of course. And finally, the poor board just like he just stood up and just walked out, leaving everybody. There's footage of this. I'll try to remember to post it under the episode on our Facebook page.
Was it somebody we knew?
It was nobody I knew, but it could be somebody that you know. I don't know. I think that most of these people were coming from this specific church, but I'm sure not all of them.
Well, I'm just saying they're our age. That it might be somebody we went to school with or something.
Oh, some of them definitely looked our age. Yeah, our age and older for the most part, or younger. It's hard to tell right now. Like 10 years older than me and 10 years younger than me. They may as well be the same age as me. I can tell you that 25-year-olds now look like 12-year-olds to me. It's funny how time is that way. Anywho, so they got up and left, and then everyone was just kind of like looking at each other, and I think you could even hear somebody in the video right before it turns off was like, "Well, what do we do now?" Well, they eventually were finally they left, and then about an hour later, there's a new feed that popped up, and they just closed the doors, and then they continued their meeting virtually through Zoom, and that's how that all went. But it'll be interesting to see if that picks up steam. This is probably going on all over the place where these mandates are popping up anyway, but won't be surprised if we see Wenatchee going viral again in the other kind. But
about that time.
So I think maybe Christopher reached out to me a while ago to tell me about a Netflix special on Bob Ross was coming soon.
Did you
mostly
watch it?
from an angle. I did not, but I didn't realize it was out yet, but I just came across the story just today when I was looking for something to talk about. And it sounds like the premise was like the dark side of Bob Ross. That's how they were pitching it.
Yeah.
Well, apparently the movie is finished and it's out on Netflix as we speak. I haven't confirmed that, but all the stories said that it's out. The Bob Ross Company, of course, screened it and were none too thrilled with what they saw.
Really?
No, well, yeah. And
Doesn't it have like a dark title? Like it's like Bob Ross, Happy Little Trees and Terrible Nightmares. Something. It's got like
let's
a
see,
weird.
I wrote that down. Oh, it's Bob Ross, Happy Accidents, Betrayal, and Greed.
Yeah. What?
Well, yeah, and you can see why, of course. I mean, however you fall on this subject, I suppose you could see why the company might have a problem with it no matter what. But they claim that it was completely inaccurate and takes a completely unfair tone, especially concerning the business side of things. But according to IndieWire, the doc is not being well received by most people. And there's a lot of claims that the whole scandalous tone, which again, Happy Accidents, Betrayal, and Greed, is a bit of a bait and switch because there really doesn't seem to be much meat here, apparently, in terms of true scandal. The article says...
Oh, so it's a clickbait documentary.
Yeah, and that's not a surprise to anybody, but...
Well, the thing is that I was always aware of, and I'm sure everybody else was aware of, that it was like when he died, his son took over. And his son was actually, kind of part of that business.
Well,
so
it
relates to him. His son is like doing some down and dirty deeds. I don't see where it has any merit.
Well, he didn't take over the business. He was taking over some of the painting, and he definitely was one of the what would you call it? I guess official sanctioned Bob Ross instructors. He had instructors all over the place, most big cities at one point. I'm sure that's true again, but at the heyday of Bob Ross, when he was alive, these classes happened all over the place. He wasn't flying all over the country teaching them. He would teach people to go out and do it, his disciples, and you could be taught by someone who was taught by Bob Ross. Really interesting enterprise. But the article says, I'm quoted here, much of the documentary is built around the entanglement of Ross with Walt and Annette Kowalski, the people who would eventually create Bob Ross Industries and who still maintain Ross's legacy and the financial profits therein. Here is where anything passing for grit comes in. From Bob Ross's possible affair with Annette Kowalski, for reasons that are never contextualized, to claims that Walt Kowalski recorded phone calls due to his past in the CIA. It sounds like the fanciful stylings of a person remembering their childhood memories at best, to bizarre conspiracy theories at worst. At times, the voices of other people, like fellow television painters Gary and Catherine Jenkins, feel included just to promote the so-called scandalous side of the documentary. Goes on to say, in the grand scheme of rights ownership drama, there's no doubt that Ross was taken advantage of. But it feels like that's the only reason this documentary exists. At the film's end, interviews are conducted with people who believe that Bob Ross changed their life. From a man who is attempting to commit suicide to a woman struggling in the wake of losing a child. These people talk about finding the joy in painting and reiterate why Ross's legacy is so important. It's only a shame that these voices appear only in the final 5 minutes of the movie, playing like a manipulative. Sometimes I just can't do it. Manipulative. You get
Massachusetts.
As Bob Ross would say, what did he say? My tongue got stuck on my eye teeth and I couldn't see what I was saying. Something like that. I couldn't even spit that out. Words. Manipulative. Yeah, that's a tricky one. Tactic to show just how horrid the Kowalskis are more than anything else. And finally, Bob Ross, Happy Accidents, Betrayal, and Greed wants to be the next Tiger King with decidedly mixed results. Moments discussing Ross's art techniques and his impact as a painter and a person feel so unique and rich for examination, but they're all buried under an umbrella of two people who were villains and screwed over people for money. So mostly seems like it's going after the financial snafus of these Kowalskis. that the
Right.
director clearly doesn't like.
Not making him a bad guy. You know, the thing is like Bob Ross, with like Twitch TV, we talked about Twitch. We know what it is. It's an internet, television show. He has his own show that it airs 24/7.
I know, it's great.
But he's had that before Twitch was even there, when it was on Justin.tv. And like, so whoever owns those rights or still have them, and they still air like his son's airtime when he's teaching and stuff like that.
Well, there have been a lot of interesting legal things popping up with Bob Ross concerning ownership of paintings, ownership of some of the shows that weren't necessarily in a specific type of copyright status.
There's a huge revenue when it comes into like JTV. It is no longer exists, but like with Twitch, that still has that has a healthy income coming in from that channel, and whoever owns that channel is probably making a very wealthy income off of it.
Oh, sure.
I don't think about revenues like that very often, like a Twitch stream. I'm sure you can really kill it.
Well, it's $5 per episode or per member, and then if you have 30,000 people, just times it by 5.
Yeah,
that's what you're making monthly.
Yeah, I mean, some people are making a part-time job's worth, and then some people are in mansions in Malibu strictly because of some of these fucking streamers. I mean, not just the ninjas and the I can't remember some of the other bigger names, but there are some that most people have never heard their name, even if they're video gamers or if they're streamers themselves or they watch other streamers that they never heard of them. But these people are fucking like millionaires. And then YouTube. It's funny because Bob Ross used to be on, you used to be able to find Bob Ross episodes on YouTube, probably just random schmoes uploading them. And then when this company made a deal with Netflix to start putting Bob Ross seasons or collections up on Netflix, all of a sudden that disappeared on YouTube. But then I feel like it was about when the pandemic started, an official Bob Ross YouTube channel popped up, and now they're back up there again. But it really was the pandemic that got, he already had a following, of course, and he had a resurgence several years ago, and you just start seeing his shit everywhere, like on keychains and T-shirts and memes, along with his videos popping up on things like Netflix. But the pandemic was great for the Bob Ross industry because people started following along again and buying his paints that have his name on it that apparently are owned by these people. And it's funny because the Bob Ross people have spoken out about how unfair and inaccurate it is, but we haven't really, they teased in some of the articles that I read that they might be thinking about legal action. I don't know over what. Defamation maybe, but those are hard cases to win. But we shall see.
I'd sure like to know. I'd sure like to know what the effect of that, like the actual numbers. Like when we heard that the Fleetwood Mac song had like an 80% or 800% album sale increase after that TikTok guy. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Like I'd love some numbers on that. I think I'd love to correlate that and see.
Well, for a quick little number, there's a streamer called Soda Poppin'. And his name's Chance Morris, and he lives down in Texas. What he does is on a Sunday, and he doesn't do it very often. He does it like maybe once every 3 months, but he calls it Sellout Sunday. And what it is basically it's a chance for people, just fans, to get and find internet memes, and he'll have a moderator go through them all and make sure there's no nudity or anything to get them banned. But it's like a dollar, like a second. And I've watched him in a stream under 8 hours, under an 8-hour workday, making over $100,000.
That's nuts.
In his pocket.
It is nuts.
Just showing off memes.
And he just sits there.
I can do that.
Watches all these internet memes.
Where did we go wrong, guys?
Good work if you can get it. Mm-hmm. Well, look at the fucking podcast. H3, is it H3H3? I think.
I don't know that.
They got huge just by watching people's YouTube videos and like laughing at it, just like making fun of them. Not like Mystery Science Theater, like super clever necessarily or crafted riffing. Just like let's watch shit and comment on it. That's how they got huge. And that I don't know if they were I'm sure there are other people doing that. That became a huge thing. Reaction videos in general, or let's watch type
It's
videos.
giant now.
It's insane. And those guys are millionaires. They're multimillionaires, and they're big deal. They're like huge media companies now, some of them. But I was thinking about with Bob Ross, it's so funny how, he died in like 93, I think, 94. He never could have foreseen. I mean, he was famous in his own time, of course, but not like this. Like, he never could have foreseen how huge he would become as like a pop culture icon.
It's crazy.
And it's funny. It's not even so much connected to the art world. Bob Ross wasn't really, by most measures, a fine painter, by modern art standards. He was more folksy and craftsy, like toll painting type stuff, at least for what he did on the show. But I recently saw a vlog by Days with Jordan the Lion, who, by the way, has been vlogging for 3, maybe 5 years at the most, somewhere around there. He's been to so many rad locations over the years, and he's a likable, curious kind of guy. So it's fun to watch him just go exploring the world, and he films it. So I highly recommend it, like armchair traveling, especially his older stuff. I liked his older stuff when he was just like walking around L.A., like, here's where the Manson family murders were. And he'd give you some details. And he went out to the Spawn family ranch, and there's like random Manson era shit still just laying out in the dirt. It's crazy. But he just went to the Bob Ross Museum in Indiana, and you can actually, it's in the old PBS building there, whatever that initial station was. I think it was PBS when it started, and you can actually stand in the old studio space, with the black curtain hanging next to the easel that he used, the exact easel, and his exact setup, and actual paintings there, and all of the old original cameras that filmed him, these ancient looking cameras. It's funny just to see all that old technology. And you could tell that it was the 3-way camera setup, and it was just amazing to see that space. And you could see, a lot of people don't know that Bob painted 3 versions of every piece. He had,
really?
Yeah. Huh. He when he thought up the scene, he painted that, and then he would use that as reference, hanging it off camera, and they show that in the little vlog. And then he would paint the one for the show, using occasionally glancing over at the reference one while painting during the recording. And then when that was done, he would do a third one, and that would be photographed with specific steps and lighting for his books. So he made 3 versions of every painting, and there would be very slight variations, but they're essentially the exact same painting. And pretty interesting. I miss having Bob Ross drinking draws on Radar Station. We made very dangerous Bob Ross drinking games, where every time you say shoot, or I tell you what, just beat the devil out of it, all his isms. It's a good way to end up in the hospital from alky poisoning. Go ahead, Lau.
He was pretty family friendly kind of individual. He had a great personality, and I think that's what carried on over the generations.
Yeah,
that made him so, even today's standards, today's generations love him, because he's not gone. I mean, he's on these, like I said, like Twitch, 24/7. You have kids that are 12 years old that are learning to paint.
Yeah.
And learning in his mannerisms.
Sarah's kids are hooked on it.
It's cool, man.
That's
but
awesome.
They like just watching it too, to relax. And that's what that show had, was that how many instructional shows back then, now they've leaned into that sort of style where you just watched to chill out. And, we talked about how Bob Ross was sort of the king of ASMR before anyone even knew what ASMR was. And they caught on to it. They knew what they were doing. They didn't have to mic the canvas in a way that they did so that it got every little jab of that brush, and then the little cool water splash, all those sounds. They knew that was part of the appeal. Because if you go back and you find the really old ones, they hadn't dialed that in quite yet. So that was something that they clearly explored the further they went. Did you guys see this Nashville UFO fleet?
I saw the headline, but I don't know anything about it.
I'm going to send you a link here. Hopefully it works. Now, I think to say that it was a fleet. It was a bit of a stretch. But quite a few people sent me this story, and this was supposedly captured on camera in Nashville. And I don't know. Let me know what you all think. Again, to call it a fleet is a bit overselling it, but there are a few of them, and they're basically just kind of little light dots up in the sky, making maneuvers that things that we own shouldn't be able to do. You guys able to watch it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching it now. Huh.
It's really dark.
Could it be drones?
Could be drones. That was something that I saw a lot of people guessing. Didn't seem like there were any sounds going with this, though.
A lot of times drones have two different colorations of lights. There's red and green lights. They'll flash at night.
They are moving wonky occasionally, though, and in a weird unison.
Yeah.
They have standard like lights you could stick on a drone. You could duct tape a flashlight to.
The triangular movement is what really fucked me up for a second there. Do you know what I'm talking about? It looked like a.
Well, I was kind of flying in formation.
Yeah, like a frisbee, like the shape like a triangle. That was weird.
It's interesting because the maneuvering is what's most impressive about it. It's like, I don't know of any drones that can move like that, but
it's hard. It's hard to distinct the distance.
Yeah, they're just dots in the sky, so it's hard to say, are they way up there? It does look like they kind of go behind the clouds, doesn't it? In a couple of spots, it looks like it kind of goes behind the clouds.
It's it's kind of scary when you look at it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can imagine being that guy and seeing this. Yeah, it definitely looks like it goes behind the cloud. And it also looks like it's, of course, this would be a super simple thing to fake. Yeah, that's always the case. But
of course,
it does look like it's sort of, it's up there. And it's sort of bouncing and skipping almost like a moth at one point.
The grain. What you're looking at is that noise, and that grain makes it look like they're going behind the clouds. They're not. They're actually in front of the clouds. That's what I'm saying. They're in such a distance. They could be anything. They could be bugs, like fireflies or something like that.
No, you're right. Now, once you focus your eyes, you can see how some of them do look like they go behind the clouds, but a few of them are definitely in front of them. That would be pretty hard to fly around a cloud.
I had a really weird dream the other night that I was basically getting abducted.
Interesting.
It was super realistic.
Were you probe?
No. In fact, so I was
anti-probe panties.
It's like I wish.
I was seeing this like it was like a grouping of like colors and lights and shapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in your dream, obviously, when you're in a dream, things are kind of different. So I was seeing it kind of in front of my vision, like I was just like looking straight ahead, and I was seeing this like, what's that? And then I looked up in the sky and saw the same thing, but it kind of coalesced when I was looking up at the sky, and then it turned into like a definite like shape that was like, okay, here's a thing, but there's a bunch of lights and colors underneath it. You couldn't see what the actual shape was. You could see the lights and the colors, right? And it looked, I don't know, it kind of looked like some kind of like a Native American artwork, and it was like kind of juking and jiving around in the sky like a jellyfish or something. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that's some kind of UFO type deal there.
Gosh.
And then it was making this, and then it was starting to make a weird noise that I can't fully remember or describe, but it was like a clicking, kind of like a click. And then I realized that it was coming down, and then suddenly it was like all like kind of white light around me, like it was like hit me with its beam or whatever. And then I was kind of like on my back, kind of above the ground, and I was like, oh, it's coming down to get me.
Oh, cool. No big deal.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm being abducted, but I was there with somebody else. And then like, as that was happening, it was like, it came down, and then like, I think he got into it and was like, oh, okay, just kidding. See you later. And like took off, something like that. I don't know, dude. That's what it kind of the impression that I had. Right. But it was just like, and I woke up and I was like, what the hell just happened? Cause it was super realistic.
You're like, oh, thank God it was only a dream. Oh wait, it's 2021 and the world sucks.
Come back.
Yeah, take me with you.
Yeah.
As a compliment, I would like to think that if any of us are related to being any kind of like a star child, I'd like to think you're one of the first.
Yeah, he knows a lot of shit. That's how he's so well traveled and or educated. I mean, he's been traveling the speed of sound and light. Well, one more quick one that will stick with you here. I want you to well, maybe I'll read the story before I send you the video. The headline is grabby. Single lightning strike kills 550 sheep.
What?
Here's the deets.
That sounds bad.
Oh, wait till you see the video. It is bad. Now, there's no video of the strike, but the aftermath, and it's anyway. The deets, according to Coast AM, and I quote: "A bizarre case of mass carnage erupted on a mountain in the country of Georgia earlier this month when a single lightning bolt killed an astounding 550 sheep." The jaw-dropping incident reportedly unfolded in the community of, I won't try to even butcher it, on August 9th when a thunderstorm passed over the area. Shortly thereafter, sheep herders were informed that a lightning bolt had wiped out a whopping 100 animals. And then upon further investigation, wishful thinking, the man was stunned to discover an additional 450 sheep that belong to other farmers.
Possible.
Now take a look at this. It goes on to say a nightmarish video from the aftermath of the storm shows a slew of the downed sheep scattered across the mountain as bewildered observers look over the haunting scene. Now, of course, this is not a cute video to look at, but I'm sending it to you all the same because hearing about it is one thing, but seeing
it's just as far as the eye can see.
It's like a holocaust of sheep. It's
as far as the eye can see. It's
everywhere you look.
What? How did this happen? One
lightning bolt. Now, I didn't know it could happen, but
I don't understand.
It goes on to say, while incredibly rare, such incidents of lightning wiping out large numbers of animals are not entirely unheard of. Back in 2016, over 300 reindeer were killed with a similar shocking event in Norway. Fucking insane, man.
That's just, I never in my does it just chain between them all? It's like a group of animals?
So I'm wondering if there isn't something
like strikes one, it's just like
yeah, or maybe there's some sort of like metal in, I mean, it's a grass,
or like maybe they were standing in like it was like really moist soil. There was like a kind of like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time when a thunder strikes, it's usually, a thunderstorm. There's rain, water involved.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're standing in water, it's a
but there's rock in
it's confusing to me.
Of land
and they're everywhere. Guys. They're spread out like everywhere,
like feet and feet apart.
I've taken pictures of lightning strikes that are like thicker than an automobile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you were to
can only imagine the power.
Man, I don't know. That's fucked up.
Huge, dude.
It smells good.
Dude, that's like
someone making gyros.
Yeah. I've actually got some footage of some lightning strikes that I've never seen before that went viral.
They don't look burned though.
The strike went down, and actually hit the ground, and then it looked like it raised up, went over hillsides, and went about like 5 feet or 5 miles back, and then touched ground again. So in a situation like that, it definitely could happen. Unfortunately, we just had a fire up here in Okanagan, which a friend of mine, I guess her family friend, lost 300 fucking head of cattle through that fire because the fire went through and just annihilated their fucking livestock.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're trapped. I mean, where can they go? Fucking crazy. Well, that's all I got. So any stories you guys want to share, and then we can move on to some of this great feedback.
I have a story I want to share. Oh, go ahead.
You go first. I want to see if it's the same as what I was going to say.
I doubt it is. I've been saving this one for a bit, but the ability for me to share this is kind of predicated on knowing how much of The Mandalorian you guys have seen, or if it would be spoiling something for you.
No,
I've seen all of it.
Do you know about the thing that happened at the end of last season that everyone went crazy about? That was all in the news.
Yeah, you're talking about Gina Carano.
No, I'm talking about the reveal.
The reveal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
This is tough. It was all over the news. But I don't want to spoil it for you, but also we're like 6 months past when that shit aired, and this is like newsworthy.
Yeah, I don't care. So
okay.
you've given the audience time to skip ahead a minute or
Lyle,
two.
do you mind if I talk about?
Nobody cares. I don't care.
Okay, cool. So spoilers, if you care, tune out for 30 seconds or so. End of Mandalorian season 2. We see a hooded Jedi board a ship and just slay these robots that have pinned our heroes down. We don't know who it is at first, but it's a single X-wing shows up and it's in a hood, and all of a sudden you start to notice he has a black glove on, and you're like, oh my god, because it takes place in an era post like young Luke Skywalker, so we still, like right after the Empire falls.
Green lightsaber.
Yeah, green lightsaber. So he walks in, he destroys 20 unbelievably tough robots, walks in, takes his hood off. It's fucking young Luke Skywalker. And he's there to take the child back. And it's really cool. It's a fucking incredible scene. It's arguably one of the coolest lightsaber sequences you're ever going to see. And then the reveal is cool. But the effects of young Luke Skywalker aren't perfect. They were good, right? John Mark, how'd you feel about him?
Yeah, it was good. I mean,
but like didn't blow you away, but like you didn't really care because it was so cool, right?
Exactly.
Right.
It's like, what are you gonna do?
You knew what they were doing, but
yeah,
cool anyway, right? Cool part of the story.
So totally. So this guy that goes by, what is his name? Some weird. He has a YouTube name called Shamuk, and what he does is he does deep fakes. That's all he does, or it's a specialty. So he took that sequence and fixed it, he said, and put it up side by side. So I'm gonna send you this YouTube clip over Messenger here, and pull it up and tell me what you think. Now there's another part to the story, so I just want you to see this, and you can kind of look and tell me for yourself if it shows his versus Disney's, and you can see. There's a difference.
So are you talking about like the CGI portion?
Yes. So it'll be really clear. It's like his face, Luke Skywalker's face, and Disney's versus what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Versus Shamuk.
Yeah.
Shamuk. Come on.
Shamuk up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you must be on the ad
this
portion.
15 minute. Or 15 minute.
Yeah.
We're heading
Perfect.
there. Yeah. Well, I can tell which one I think is better in the thumbnail.
He looks good.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, you don't care enough to be angry about it because you don't really
notice.
Well, watch the two though. Whoops.
Because we all know what he looks like in his younger youth. You know what I mean?
Sure, but it's suspension of disbelief that he's actually there. All right, like that's the thing. And as we watch stuff that ages CGI, sometimes it doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, are you guys watching it?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's the lighting. You could tell the deepfake has better lighting in it.
Yeah, it looks better just all around.
In his eyes, he looks more.
Yeah, it does look better.
Anyway, so he's been doing this for a while now, and I always worry about what's going to happen to these people. Like Disney can't come up with the cease and desist, but no, Lucasfilms. That's exactly what happened. Lucasfilms just fucking hired this guy.
Wow.
Isn't that great?
That's fucking ruling.
Isn't that like that is the best?
Life never works out that way.
That's how
nearly
it's supposed
enough,
to
right?
be. That's how it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is
And I was
usually
like,
litigation.
It made me feel really good and excited about
Well,
where that's going.
a cool story.
Yeah.
And it is a subtle difference, but
What about the person that came up with the first one? It's like, new guy's not so good.
The thing is, it's a fucking team of 30 people.
Step it up, Disney.
Bitches.
I guess they just did.
Kind of cool, I thought.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys hear the story about the Nirvana baby?
Oh, yep.
I just saw
I have
that.
this as a part of a news quiz, but the detail I have isn't. It's deep in the story, so I'm hoping it's cool. Yeah, talk away.
Well, a story just came out today that the he's now a man who was the baby in the cover of Nirvana's Nevermind is suing them for all kinds of crazy shit.
Exploitation is the only thing I saw. What else is he?
So I read a story, and I don't remember exactly what website it was on, but it like had all kinds of like crazy allegations of like child pornography and all just the way that they presented it in the story that I read was just completely outrageous. You know what I mean? And it's like, if these are real
people are going to get a hold of this.
If these are real, like actual things that they're bringing forward in the suit, that lawyer is on tremendous amounts of cocaine or something, because it's just completely outside of the realms of any sort of like reality, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that kid just wants money, right? I mean, let's be real.
Well,
Well, of course, yeah.
the way the photo was shot, you know, it's obviously you could see, you know, his genitalia as he's floating in a pool, you know, and that's what the image is. I mean, that's what he's describing about, and that's what he's saying, that it's, you know, an image of me that was wrongfully used, you know. But as a child, you know, how much rights do you have of your image?
Parents
No.
signed
Well,
away on this.
and for 30 years he's been totally cool with it, and
Yeah,
he's
using
cashed
to
it all the
promote
way to the
himself.
bank. Yeah.
And it's
Uh-huh.
like, okay.
It's not like he's gonna
He's
get
probably been late so many times because of that.
t-shirts.
Fucker.
Mhm. Yeah, but
Yeah.
90% of the time
that.
people don't even believe
He
him.
even said that in an interview with him. He even said that.
Of course.
Said what? That he got laid.
Yeah.
Oh well. Yeah.
And then I saw another interview where he said it was like weird for him because like when someone found out that he didn't make any money from it, that they were like, oh well, forget you then. And it's like, what are you even talking about?
Well,
Mhm.
your parents had to make money off of it, yeah.
He's all over the place, man.
Yeah, well, when you need money and you see an opportunity, but there's a thing that comes along with that sort of activity, which is you becoming very unpopular, going after something that's sacred to a lot of people, the Nirvana cover. But who fucking knows in this day and age how this will go? Right? I mean, who fucking knows? I mean, the right judge or the wrong judge, depending on how you're looking at it. And who knows? We may actually see a new, a redux version, because we do this throughout society in general. Like you can go back and see all of these crazy. When King Kong first came out, there was this scene where Kong was almost like a banana slowly peeling off Fay Ray's clothes, and she was nude. I mean, like went all the way down to nude. And that was in 1932. When they re-released the film later in 1937, just a few years later, the censors in the United States, anyway, said, we're more evolved now. Like they literally said, we are more refined, we are more sophisticated now. We don't need this kind of thing where he's sniffing her clothes. And they cut it. Like they cut the actual. Back in the day, you had prints, but you didn't have many of them. They actually took one of those original prints and cut it and then burned what they cut. The only reason we still have those original scenes is because I believe there's a print in the UK and their censors did not do the same thing. But there are other things that we've lost in many, including entire films, by the way, that were burned and there were no backup.
One that comes into my mind was Poison. One of their CDs. It wasn't even CDs back then. It was fucking cassette tape. And it was the one where it wasn't like Let the Cat Dragged In, but it was had this, you could tell it wasn't even human. Maybe
it was like
the giant
a
tongue.
tiger woman or something with a big tongue.
Open up and say,
yeah, that was what it was.
Tongue. And everybody lost their shit. Parents fucking blew up. We can't have their kids listening to this kind of music. And
with tongues long, etc.
Yeah, it could look like something like Kiss, maybe the devil.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So sometimes we go backwards with this shit. And we're like,
and it was so fast. It was like literally that tape came out, and it's collectors now. If you could find it, it's collectors, and they made shirts of those too. And that's kind of why I'm talking about the whole Nirvana thing, because it's like kind of related in a sense.
I remember a similar story with the Led Zeppelin Houses of the Holy. That's a minor that you're seeing naked, but there was an even more blunt one. It was one of Clapton's early bands, and it was a young girl. I think she was like 14, and she's topless, and she's holding like this model airplane. It's a very famous, controversial album cover. It came out in the late 60s, early 70s, I would guess. What the fuck is the name of that album? Anyway, it's straight up, a nude minor. But that came out when it came out, and then they censored it later and then reissued it, and then they reissued the uncensored version. So we're kind of funny that way, where things that all of a sudden we feel like, oh no, this is trash. We have to, we're more refined now. So who knows where this one will go? It'll be interesting. Probably nowhere. Mostly because it seems like he's coming at it from sort of a chaotic and greedy / needy standpoint versus this has done actual damage to me. I think he's got a hard case to prove when he's been in Rolling Stone and Spin Magazine and posting on social media. Yeah, that's me. I'm that guy. That's me. And then all of a sudden turning around and saying, oh, I didn't want any of this. That's going to be a tough sell, my friend. But we shall see.
Well, and if his parents had anything to do with it, then he's kind of shit out of luck anyway. If his parents made off of it, it's too bad.
That's the rules of the world. Shall we get on some feedback? You want to pull up your Facebook? I can go into some.
Yeah, I've got it right here. Actually,
you got it. Let's do it. Let's start with.
Yeah. I just took some. No.
It's a great intro. Yeah. Go ahead.
Skype. Okay. So for the Olympics rant show post, Ben says, Ron, I took the Olympics off. It was too hard to find what I wanted to watch and where to watch it. So you were not alone, Ron.
Yeah.
But, our Ben.
Our Ben is a very, very, very fine Ben in this year without Olympics. Mm-hmm.
The great Sarah Sim says, I love how every episode John Mark Pitts says some version of people are fucking dumb as shit. It always applies, and it's my very favorite.
I think
an old man.
Literally just that exact phrase.
She continues with, an old man Evans, you kids and your apple pods and wolf teeth ear buddies. Why are you 80? You guys make Mondays tolerable. That was lovely.
Yeah. Wolf tooth ear buddies.
I think that could be a segment.
Proud of that one.
TJ says on that app, you discussed prostate stimulation and prostitution in the same breath, and no one ever said prostitution.
Prostitution. Huh.
And now I have to take meds and sit in the dark, she says.
Well, that's a good term, and that could be the gateway drug, because that sounds like something that's in between the sexual and the medical world, right? Therapeutic ass probing. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it'd be marketed.
Sure.
Sarah Ray Shields says, funny you mentioned sending me a banana peel. Last night coming home from PDX, I had a banana and I had to throw the peel out the window. I had to ask my brother if cars don't really slip on them, like in Mario Kart. I blame the late night 6 goals and copious jello shots and cheap beer.
Yeah, that's right. Portland, Seattle soccer match.
Oh,
Seattle, dope. Yeah, that was a decided victory.
I think banana peels are about the only good thing you could probably throw out your car, because they are extremely biodegradable.
I would think so too, as long as you get it, well off the road, so that you don't have any slippage. Wonder how many banana peels it would take to actually make your car slide.
Well, over there in the rain, maybe.
Yeah, maybe just the one.
Russ had some feedback on Album Club for John Mark's pick here. He says, on the music front, very interesting choice. I've never been big on black metal. I was impressed. I did my first playthrough while driving. To me, it seemed that every song was a chapter of a story. I've always had trouble with the style of vocals. I still was not a big fan of the words. I couldn't read what he said. There was a spelling typo. Sorry, Russ. But the music behind was impressive. My second playthrough was as a backing track to Mech Warrior. Excellent choice, by the way. Glad I was not the only one that listens and games. I muted the game sounds and it went at it. I found myself getting lost in the sounds. This was a fucking awesome application thus for this music. I'm still not big into darker metal, but I can surely respect the talent of these artists. Great choice, John Mark Pitts. I still want to meet up for a drink soon. Better get on that, John Mark Pitts.
Yeah, you got fans want to meet up. And yeah, I think I'd love when people are feedbacking on the music part.
Yeah, I really have enjoyed that.
People are actually playing along with it. That's great.
Did you get any other feedback, John Mark, on that? I saw a couple of people comment here and there.
Yeah, not a whole lot, but okay. Yeah, there was some from Abby.
Yeah.
Abby listened to it and she had some good insights, and she was talking about how she liked the guitars and stuff, but she has trouble with the drumming of that style because of all the cymbals and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I can see that because it's like a lot of symbols can like be pretty harsh to some people's ears. I totally get it.
Yeah. On the most recent podcast episode, we have a few comments here. Skip says, Christopher Hart, great music suggestion and another great episode, guys. Gold stars for everyone. I'll take it. Well, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Skip. Luke says, great show. I was like that with No Code. Me and my friends all loved Pearl Jam, but they didn't like No Code too much. And Lyle, accept my friend request.
That's right. 1 of 65 waiting, if I remember right.
More than that. I got on there and it seemed like it was 150.
Well, people are waiting.
I just don't dig social media, man.
Yeah.
Social media, you like that?
That's actually a great slip. Social media.
Social media.
You're all a bunch of social medians.
Cheryl Martin says, 1, I totally agree about the lack of escapism in a lot of media anymore. I've been stuck in a cycle of Bob's Burgers, The Simpsons, Rick and Morty because it's safe. And depending on my high, the jokes start hitting again. And even though I know what's coming, I did watch White Lotus, though. It was very good, but still pissed me off. I may just be in an angry phase. 2, math is hard. Thank you for acknowledging that, Cheryl. Yes, I was having a bit of a math problem last episode. And then 3, she says, when Christopher was talking about his date, I actually spoke aloud and asked, why is he doing this? But that made
your
me
flag
laugh.
joke.
And I liked it in retrospect. My flag joke was fucking great.
I thought it was
In
funny.
fact,
I didn't get
TJ
any love for mine. I did not see that third flag coming. Not even on the show.
Wait, the third flag coming?
Maybe did you just not get it?
No.
I did not see that third flag coming.
Oh.
Not see?
Oh my
But
God. I see.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I didn't get
when
it.
you got to
Took me
explain
three-
it 3 times,
Yeah.
I guess it's on me.
Womp womp.
the joke doesn't work. You gotta
I did not see it disappointing that.
Well, TJ appreciated my flag joke very much. She says she can't wait to use them, and she also wanted to thank John Mark Pitts for just destroying you guys at News Quiz and entering her into championship round.
Yeah, well deserved.
Indeed. Danny Kish says, how does one opt into this music sharing experiment? Which you did respond to him, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to say out loud to everyone listening how they can get in on this and be a part of the How Bizarre Record Club.
Well, I think the easiest way is to email radarstationart@gmail.com or just get it to us. Facebook works too. Doesn't matter who sees this first. It'll all end up in the same place. But what we'd like is to have nothing, we're not talking 3,000 words here, but, give us a heartfelt, we've set the stage for you, give us a little background, why you love it, how you found it, sell us on it. And then you can do that either via text or what we would really love is for you guys to record yourself. A lot of people can't figure out how to record just their audio on their phone. I've found this with running the magazine. But you can just set up your video and aim the camera away if you don't want your face on it. We can extract the audio out of that just as easily. So send that to us and we will start piling them up, and I think we'll select 1 or maybe 2 depending on how short they are. And we can always strew them out over several months. We don't have to do them back to back to back. I think We'll try that and we'll go from there. We'll adjust if necessary.
Awesome. A few quick ones here. Denny says, oh, no, or did that one. Katie, Sergey Yafif says,
Surgery Jeff.
Surgery Jeff. Well, that's one way to say it.
In your timeline.
I always love a good wacky news roundup ep. Jacob says, another great episode. I've really enjoyed the album club. Russ says, so much better than news as of late. Thanks for the diversion. And then Abby left a really good one here. She says, I signed up for Apple TV just to watch Ted Lasso, which I'm dying to watch. Yeah. I had been wanting to watch the show, but waffling on signing up for another streaming service. But it's cheap and there's a 7-day free trial, and my friend really, really wanted me to watch it. I'm glad I did. It's so good and wholesome and uplifting. Shows so much respect for all its characters. Watching Ted Lasso is like getting a really nice hug without the swears, or with swears. Excuse me. That's nice. I like that. I like that analogy. Also, White Lotus was good. Yeah, White Lotus was good. I really enjoyed it, though it's definitely dark and unsettling, but I like dark, unsettling things. It's kind of a downer, too, when all's said and done. I love a good downer. Thanks, Abby.
Yeah, I usually do too, and I probably will continue to. Like I said, I might have just been in a place where I
I
needed
think
a little break.
The ending of it is to me it wasn't quite a downer. There was some elements of it that was kind of downerish, but there was because the ending kind of like incorporates like all the various plot lines, right, in different ways. So there were some parts of it were downery, and some parts of it were like, oh well, that's actually kind of good, I think. You know what I mean? So from a certain point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can see that. But I would say, you know, if you guys are waffling on getting either a trial or just sign up for a month of Apple Plus TV Plus, it's worth it, not only for Ted Lasso but for All Mankind, which is the show. It's an alternate history of basically the space race, starting from the Apollo missions. It's an alternate history of that and how like the USA and Russia get to the moon basically at the same time, all kinds of crazy shit. And it's done by the showrunner that was the guy who did Battlestar Galactica and Outlander. It's really fucking good. And there's also, now hear me out, there's a show on there called Servant, which is I think written and executive produced by M. Night Shyamalan, and it's actually really good. And it's not like, I don't want to say it's not like any of his movies, because it's definitely like weird and kind of sinister, but it doesn't have the same aspect of the movies that people hate about his movies. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I feel like as a show, it does a better job of sort of bringing a vision of one of his stories to life than some of his movies have done, and we really enjoyed it. So
what
there's
about
at least
C? Did you watch C?
C?
On Apple Plus, the one with Jason Momoa.
I did not watch that.
Oh,
nope, I did not watch that.
Okay.
You know what's funny about you were talking about like the sort of alternate history of the space. For some reason, and it's it's so stupid. I have a hard time getting into a lot of like alternate reality history things, like what was the Nazi Tarantino one?
Inglorious Bastards.
Oh, Inglorious Bastards.
I was so tripped up on a lot of that, and even the Charlie Manson one, similar thing. Like I know the history so well that I struggle through these alternate history type things for some reason, which is silly because I understand that aliens never really happened, but I can get into aliens. But for some reason, when they're monkeying about with something that I know happened a specific way,
it didn't go that way.
that's what happens, and I don't know why. It's like I would like to be able to enjoy those kinds of things, but I'm always just like, but why didn't you just do it right way? Stupid.
There's a lot of
I think
you should admire, and like your friends that you know that are smart, that believe some of the fictional shit in movies are real. I'm not even.
I'm not talking about that in a little bit.
Not even
I think the thing that really works with For All Mankind is the fact that you kind of go into it knowing that, okay, well, this is kind of like what could have been in a different reality, as far as the space race, but the characters and the way things happen are so realistic, the way that they're depicted, that you can totally see, kind of like buy into it, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, they're telling a different story now, so you buy into it as like this work of science fiction, even though it's set in sort of like ostensibly a reality that we knew at one point, but it kind of branches off so far that you're just like, okay, well, now I'm watching a whole new different thing now, and it doesn't really take you out of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah
Because like it's, with the Tarantino movies that you're talking about, it's like basically like, okay, this is history as we know it up until a certain point where it's like, okay, switch, now it's different. This is not like that. It's like different, like kind of like basically the whole way through. So you're kind of buying into it all along. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
We got more Facebook feedback.
The only other comment I got was in direct correlation to my music pick, and I was just going to bring that up when you guys had feedback.
Okay. Well, let's get on to, I don't have many emails, but I thought these are pretty good. First off is Lori, who says, just thought I'd let you know that you guys ruined some hot sex for me and my boyfriend the other day.
Finally.
Well, right. ... Christopher did, to be exact.
Oh, perfect.
Chris, you boning killer motherfucker.
Videotape never happened.
She goes on to say, we had your new show on in the kitchen and found ourselves in a spontaneous quickie within earshot. Always tricky when this show is on. It's just like eating. It could ruin the mood real quick. She says, we were able to... we were able to keep going pretty well up until Chris uttered the term. I'm going to let you guys take a guess. This was from last week's episode. You want to guess the term?
No.
That was it. Right off the bat. We were able to keep it going pretty well up until Chris uttered the term Olympical. She says, I lost it. She says, I lost it and couldn't quite get back into the rhythm. You know how that goes. But we made up for it later. Anyway, I still love you guys. Thanks for the fun. That was actually pretty adorable, Lori. And yeah, if you can keep a firm pickle after hearing a limp pickle, then you are a true hero. Someone heard you say it. Someone was inside somebody else when they first heard. You never forget who you were inside when you first heard the term Olympical. That old saying.
That's funny.
Yeah, it is funny. Next up, Candy asks, hey, everybody. I'm getting caught up on the old shows and loving it, but I have a question. Every now and again, I hear a noise that I believe is someone popping their mouth or something like that. That's super quiet and whispery. It's not a bad sound or anything. I'm just baffled by what the hell it is. Thanks, Candy. And I do believe I know what you're talking about. No, I think it's pretty yours to be. Let me see if I can replicate it here. Is it, is it one of those?
Try it with a gag.
See, the thing is, I'm faking it right now, but because I don't have a cigar going or a pipe, but let me reach. I got an empty pipe here. It was like, what I have heard it sometimes, and it almost sounds like, you know, that it almost makes that sound. So let me know if that's what you're hearing, because I've heard it too. And, you know, I'm right up against the mic. What's that?
Episode 2 in our podcast career where somebody called out my gurgling stomach.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, at some point you just get over that we're humans and we make sounds. Going back to Bob Ross, you know, he had his microphone down about on a typical lapel area and like a third button down on his shirt. And so you can hear his stomach making sounds all the time. Or the other day I heard him, or a while ago, I heard him do one of these. Let's go back up here. It's like, you know, we're people. We put the microphone right up to an organism that's made of flesh and gassy stuff, and yeah, shit just happens. But yeah, I think what you're hearing is me taking a puff off my pipe or a cigar. Candy Shelby has an interesting question here. She says, have you, or Shelby, I don't know if that's a male or female, have you ever talked about the fact that hell didn't exist in the Bible until much, much later? It really intrigues me that men felt the need to ramp up the fear factor at one point and downplay the love, forgiveness, salvation, and kindness to the Christianity story. Yeah, you know, I don't think hell is mentioned in any version of the Bible, even today. Is it? Like, not like straight up, like the word doesn't. Like if you're unsaved, you will burn in hell. It's always more like damnation, or you will drink the wine of the wrath of God, or eternal darkness, or, you know, your final judgment, that kind of shit. Which
I always kind of felt like it seemed like the hell that we lived in. You know what I mean? Like, you're in hell right now, but when you die, you're going to heaven, and that's when a lot of that pain and a lot of that, it's going to be taken away.
Well, the
way I've always addressed it.
The way that it's worded is certainly open to interpretation. hell is really more of a Sunday school, Sunday sermon vehicle. And yes, it has always been used to overshadow the love and light and acceptance that so many Christians themselves tend to conveniently leave out of the equation if it doesn't fit their, political narrative or whatever. But I find this topic pretty fascinating. It's endlessly debated, of course, but many of the ideas of what we have from hell, going back to what we were just talking about, like many other things that we believe, came from fiction. The idea of hell being a place of torment that was actually run or controlled and overseen by the devil came from Dante's Inferno. That was like the first historical, like most experts agree, well, that was the first time we ever saw it. And so the church just over time adapted a similar viewpoint where and I don't know if I remember hearing this in church, but the worldview of hell is certainly that is the devil's land. He is the Lord. He is Lord Satan of the underworld. But the Bible says Satan will be banished like every other sinner. He's not going to be the overlord or the king there. So there's a lot of confusion about what hell even is, but I think it makes sense, the most sense, that it was some sort of invention or highly modified idea by men over the years. Interestingly, there has been a large movement for like over 1,000 years, maybe even longer, to eradicate the idea of hell from Catholicism and Christianity for obvious reasons. Like it serves more harm than good.
And Ron,
by pointing out that it doesn't exist in the Bible, I guess would be the go ahead, Lau.
Well, Ron, you can probably back me up on this. Is that a lot of people, especially if you talk to Satanists, believe that Lucifer really wasn't that bad of a guy. He was an angel. He was
an angel.
Mm-hmm. He was cast down from the heavens, and he just kind of believed on living his own life, and like, I'm not going to do what you're going to do, big brother, and then kind of like, he wasn't that bad of a guy, but.
Well, technically, if you believe the stories of the Bible, that's true. He was an angel. He was basically the number one angel.
Yeah.
Well, Satan is a bunch of things in the Bible. For starters, he allegedly was the snake in the Garden of Eden, and then he has many forms, So even taking the Bible literally, it's like, even literally, it sort of plays out like metaphor, right? Like the snake, why would he appear as a snake and not just another dude? It's like, hey, how long you guys been here? Hey, you know what's cool? You know what's delicious? Rots over here? This tree. No,
want a frog in this orchard with me or
wants
what?
fruit? It just, all of it, there's so much of it that almost reads like, exactly like fairy tales are written. Now, I'm not telling anybody to believe that there's no hell, no heaven. I don't fucking know, of course. But when it comes to what the Bible says, it's a fascinating thing to do your own looking up. There are all sorts of things, like Lyle said, the things that I've always thought, even before I really stopped to think, wow, it really doesn't talk about this lake of fire where Satan will, is like stirring it like a giant witch's cauldron and all the other sinners will be. There are allusions to something like that, but they could also all be interpreted as, I'm sure that if you are enlightened and you are truly like madly in love with God and you have found your calling, you have found a connection to all things, and this is life after death. It's all those great things that what salvation should be. You would be on fire for that, and you would want to spread it. And so it's easy to imagine someone's idea of being separated from that, being hellish, like being horrible, like being, we use the term in the Dark Ages. Well, the Dark Ages weren't any darker concerning light. We say that in terms of, it's a lot of things, but mostly we just hadn't evolved into a different kind of understanding. It wasn't even electricity based. It was just about like philosophical and humans becoming more able to, I don't even know the words. It's just a more enlightened age.
Not be animals.
Well, it's a huge concept. I mean, if you dive back, I mean, from one god to plural, and you think about the Egyptians, and then gods, having more than one, going through the river Styx, you could see the whole sense of hell and a rebirth of, your soul trying to go back, to the stars or whatnot, or wherever you supposedly thought you came from, like Orion, Orion's belt.
My daddy's Orion. Oh, and he took his belt to me.
It's vast. It's a vast topic, man. It probably made for a different episode.
Well, I mean, the only thing I want to end with is my point about the Age of Enlightenment versus the Dark Ages is that we use that as a metaphor. The Dark Ages weren't necessarily this horrible, well, it could be depending on what plague you were going through and what era, but just the idea of that separation from all of these wonderful blessings that you would, from what we were taught, have by following the way of Christ, by being right with God and going to heaven and all this stuff. It's easy to see how that would have been sort of portrayed in the same philosophical way, where it's like, oh, you don't want that. That's horrible over there. Why would you ever want to go with, and then that gets drummed up, and then you add to that the whole circus nature of what religion later became when it was, roadside tent shows and there's no limit to how kooky religions got in order to get your attention. And to get your ass in the seat, because these congregations needed to grow. They needed members. And they, in many cases, especially in early pioneer days, you needed tribes. In a lot of cases, these tribes and these communities were based all around a religion, because that's one fairly easy way to bind everybody together, whether you're doing these rituals or you're getting together on Sunday and reading the Bible and singing these songs. There's a sense of community. There's a sense of belonging. There's a sense that I am with my people. That was very important in a time where you were, hitching to a wagon or throwing your shit on a burro and heading over 1,000 miles of mountains. You needed a community. So there's a lot of things that play into that.
Yeah, being a village and being a community like that, you'd have to have that trust, and that trust is kind of blanketed in religion. I mean, it just binds everybody together in the sense that, unfortunately, in some bad ways, weren't very great.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk about the witch hunts and stuff, she's a witch, burn her.
Yeah.
She's
that's
different.
where the hell and fire and all that replaced the compassion and the understanding and the light and the salvation. Well, what kind of salvation is that? It's just anyway, interesting question. Thanks for that, Shelby. And one more here. This is from Mark. He asks another fascinating inquiry. He says, "Hey guys, loving the shows lately and digging the music chats. I was wondering, have any of you guys ever broken up with someone because of their shitty taste in music? Asking for a friend who's about to break up with somebody because of their shitty taste in music." Thank you, Mark. Eloquently phrased. Go ahead.
Being a fucking amateur fuck in my youth, I think I probably have once.
Interesting.
You grow, people, you can't sit there and, stop their taste in music.
No.
You definitely won't stop it.
I've never done that, but I broke up with a girl the weekend after I went on a trip with her to her home, and we were driving in silence over a mountain pass. It was a Christmas break. We were driving in silence over Stevens Mountain Pass. And she'd been really quiet for a long time. And she goes, "Why aren't we singing Christmas carols?" And I'm like, what?
She was want to lead into that?
Yeah, she was so frustrated that we weren't singing Christmas carols together. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing we needed to do.
We got to break up.
Sorry, bitch.
Interesting. John Mark?
No, but honestly, I can, as you know, Ron, from experience, I can deal with a lot of shit that is not my taste in music. From working at Boost Mobile with me. But
The place is getting torn down, by the way. Just so
to be fair, anybody that would share my same taste in music is pretty much a fucking unicorn. So
yeah, I think that's true with most
I've,
people too. I
don't
think
think
it's
I've
rare.
ever dated anybody that was like super into the majority of the music that I was into. So it wasn't just really an issue. It was just more about like, okay, can you tolerate this when I play this? Or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
I agree. I definitely haven't broken up with someone, but I was with somebody who, she didn't have bad taste in music. In fact, she did like a lot of the things that I liked. But she also liked a lot of that super shitty radio pop, and it was a pretty bad era. You know, there are worse eras of shitty pop. And so that sometimes was rough, but it would never have made me leave because of that. But, you know, shitty taste in music, definitely, I can say this. If I thought somebody had just shitty, or just, let me rephrase, taste in music that was too far away from my taste, at the introductory phase would absolutely sway my opinion of whether or not I want to pursue something. So at the early level, it would definitely affect me going down a road with them. There'd have to be some other highlights that are pretty significant for me to overlook someone who had a pretty bad music.
Can we go around the table and say what genre that it would be? That you just couldn't do it. You just couldn't do it.
I don't know if I could pick a genre because I like a little bit of everything. I could pick some bands. Go ahead, Lyle. What are you thinking?
I love old country.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I like old Johnny Cash. I like even the older country from the 90s.
Hank? Oh, like Garth Brooks there, you mean?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the new country, when they had voice shit, no, it'd be done.
Oh, you're right. That's a genre I couldn't do. There's no band I've heard, new country band, that I could do.
Yeah.
And it's not
100%.
It's like, I was just talking to my brother about this, and my brother was a huge Garth Brooks fan. He was one of those guys that overnight the Metallica t-shirt turned into a fucking Stetson and Wrangler, and it was a weird time. But, I could appreciate some of the musicality of those people like George Strait, Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks. It wasn't my thing, but they weren't that far away from like rock and roll. And it was what it was. There were actually some tunes that I could get, sort of get into. I mean, I had to. We're going to ride around in the back of his truck. But we were talking about how during that era, people would try to sing like that. It's actually kind of tricky to sing in that particular country style. If you try it, you may think you're getting close, but mostly you just sound like this. Well, that's what all the fucking new country sounds like, because it's a bunch of kids that grew up trying to emulate those guys, but they couldn't nail it. So they just all sing like this. Cheeseburgers and Coors Light. It's the worst. I have one that's written somewhere where it's those lyrics. I didn't sing it right. What is it? Oh, it's Jesus Christ in a nice Coors Light and a story on my granddad's knee. It's a new Ford truck and an old Ford truck and a road trip through Tennessee. That's verse 1. Oh, maybe that's the chorus. I can't remember. I'm going to record that and become a millionaire of new country.
Oh my God, I thought for real that was a real song. Wow.
No, but what's funny is that I wrote that.
Yeah, so did I.
I wrote that like a year ago or 2 years ago.
I think it's funny.
And I was in a store not that long ago, and I heard some fucking new country. I was pumping gas at Freddy's. And over the speaker, I swear to God, I heard a song that was like, it's onion rings and cheeseburgers on a warm summer night. Like I fucking lampooned this shit 2 years before it happened. And that's literally all the song was just like random, like Coca-Cola and a summer night. A drive-in movie with my dad. It's just like random phrases of like American pop culture shit. Yeah. And then they added auto-tune, which really added it to another level of squeaky deaky.
Yeah.
Remember the Life is a Highway cover? Who did the Life is a Highway cover? It's like, Life is a highway. It's so fucking robotic. It's like, how has this happened in country? Anyway, yeah, that's a good genre. I'll piggyback on that. Chris, is there one type of music you just like, out of here?
It's the same exact thing. It's the new country. I cannot do it. I don't mind the older country because I'm like, I
especially
mentioned
in comparison.
I grew up with some of that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like old Merle Haggard shit. I sing some of that stuff in my solo shows back in the day. John Mark, What about you?
Drink to get drunk.
I would say basically anything that is 100% like formulated. Like there's like, here's a formula. We're gonna write this song based on what we know is gonna be like what we have. Like the data points show that this is gonna be something that's gonna be sellable. You know, that kind of stuff. Basically anything.
Like what's an
you're
example?
gonna hear on like top 40 charts of most genres. Like, you know, like the super produced like electronic stuff with just like, it's like, here's the
with
formula.
40 songwriters on it.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if it's country or like pop or electronic or whatever. If it's like something that's like, here's a formula, we're going to do this, we're going to push this out, and that's the thing. And you know my taste in music. It's like, it's people like actually like writing and performing something that's from what they believe at the time, right? It's like, this is what I feel and what I think in what we're doing, and it's actual musicians all doing it together. Like I like bands, not like here's a person we're gonna put up in front of like a team of people in the studio to do this shit behind them and like push it. You know, that shit just fucking, I can't do it. Dude.
Wizard of Oz production.
Yeah, I can't do it. And it's interesting, you know, and interestingly enough, like going back to like, if you've ever broken up with somebody because of their shitty taste in music, like, you know, now that I think about it, like most of the people that I've dated have like, they've either like appreciated music or liked music, but they haven't been like, oh, like here's my collection of you know what I mean? Nobody that I've dated really has been like, oh, I have a record collection and this is what I'm like. I'm into this and like I have all these CDs and stuff. It's just like they like this or that and they can take it or leave it and listen to music here or there.
Yeah.
But they're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like they're not like I'm gonna play some music now, and it's like, oh my god, it's kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah. Well, it all makes sense. You know, you end up with who you end up with, but yeah, sometimes those entertainment things, those interests, can be so far apart that it's just like you just have to have separate lives. You know, you go to your concerts, I'll go to my concerts. I've seen that done before, but it is nice to be able to enjoy things together. It's also nice to be able to turn each other on to new shit, you know. That's one of my favorite things about good relationships. Well, I'm going to crack me open a third Modelo. I'm switching to lighter beer these days, so I don't drink half a bottle of whiskey each episode. And should we take a quick break and then get into some weird triv?
Sounds perfect. I'm going to add Bridget.
Oh, you're going to do that. Okay.
Yeah. Is that cool?
Yep. Do it. I'll be right back.
Whoa.
Okay.
You know, I really think there's something to this this whole like faux country thing that Ron's got going. I kind of feel like we could do a few songs.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Dude, I really
Let's
think
just make the money. Let's just make the money.
I think that we should do a few songs and fucking just see what happens.
Ronster, are you back yet?
I know we could fucking do it, dude.
He's not back yet. Bats Ronster has this mock country song he wrote, and he just started singing it. And we all kind of thought it was a shitty country song. We're like, oh God, stop singing this shitty country song because it sounds so legit. So we suggest we make our nut from Ron's shitty country song. Hey baby, I can hear my kid in the background.
We
Let it out.
I'm
Ron.
already confused. Did we say who was going to be joining us? On the air or off the air?
I mentioned. Well, I don't think I believe it was on the air. But
It
once
gets
again,
confusing, doesn't it?
My bestie's joining us. Bats, welcome to the show once again. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back. It's been a while.
Now, Bats, aka Bridget, she's going to be playing for herself tonight, guys, in Strange Trivia. So if she beats you guys, she's eligible for the championship.
That's fair.
Sorry, everyone else.
Firm but fair.
Good. She's pretty good at Strange Trivia. She's had a lot of practice. She's my go-to person.
That is inaccurate.
Possibly.
I am like 0 for 8 on the last 2 trivia.
Yeah, it's not been good.
Well, I'm 8 for 600, so you're looking good.
Bosom buddy.
At least going against me. Lyle and John Mark. That's a different story.
Going up against Ron for the second.
I'm just going to take head-to-head, Ron.
Yeah, it's looking good.
Before we get started, we were talking as Bats got on here about John Mark was talking about we should just get together and as the Bloody Oranges and record your country tune and make our nut and then do whatever the fuck we want for the rest of our lives.
Send
But
it down to old Nashville.
Bats came on as we were talking about this, and so I said, well, maybe you just have to hear the song. So could you give her a quick little rundown of your country ditty?
You know, can I see if my guitar's handy? I can really give it to you.
You can.
Let me just see
please,
real
really
quick.
give it to us, Ron.
Yeah, totally. Give it to us.
Okay, so now I honestly haven't tried playing this with the guitar yet, but let's see. I gotta find the key. Okay, I think I got it. Well, it's Jesus Christ and a nice Coors Light. A story on my granddad's knee. It's a new Ford truck and an old Ford truck and a road trip through Tennessee. That's really all I got. I have more verses. But when you put the harmony in there and you really...
You're on the way.
I'm absolutely on the way to being as good as any of the fuck.
It was better before you struggled to try to find your chords to go.
Me.
You just need that stutter strum.
Well, what happened was it ended up being too high. But you get the overall effect. It's really going to be better when I put the harmony in there.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, let's get down to business, guys.
Going down the river with the power.
Okay, so we need to see who's going to be joining our Ben and the lovely TJ in the next week's round, championship round, where a prize is at stake. And Bats, I have good news, and what's going to sound like good news, bad news, but it's really good news for you. It's Ron's turn to do the prize.
That's terrible news for you.
It sounds like terrible news because Ron's not good at shipping things, but what I'm gonna see this motherfucker eventually, so I'll promise to bring back whatever prize you secure if you make it. You'll probably get yours long before the other schools do. Yeah. So good news.
I can't argue with that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, last mark. Nope.
Well, it's Jesus Christ.
No. Last week, John Mark won, so he's going to be going first and playing for Katie Sire Jeff.
Surgery
Ron,
Jeff.
You're going to go second, and he's going to be fighting for Cheryl Martin.
All right.
Lyle, yeah, I know, I'd love her. Lyle, we're going to leave you in the rear to analyze until your heart's content. You're going to be playing for Michael Baker. Bats, I'm going to let you pick where you want to go. I'd assumed you want to go last, but if you want to go elsewhere, your choice.
I just assumed Bats would go last just to have that opportunity to listen to everybody.
It is the sweet spot. Yeah, I think that's fair for the guest.
Go last because I fall for a green herring every time.
Okay. So I'll be third.
Okay. We are going to start this off with the news story about the Nirvana kid. Now, Bats, we were talking about this earlier, so you may be at a bit of a disadvantage. So we know this is going to happen. We don't know how it's going to pan out. We have some iffy feelings about it. But as I was reading the story, I came across an interesting tidbit about this album cover. The album cover was a concept planned by Kurt Cobain, but his initial vision was a little bit different. It wasn't what the end product ended up being. What was his initial vision for the Nevermind cover? Was it A, a baby swimming with a shark? Is it B, a mother giving birth to a baby underwater?
Oh, the carnage. Oh, like the tide of Omaha Beach.
Was it C, a baby swimming in a sea of fire? Or was it D, an undead baby skeleton? Nope.
Skeleton.
Edit this, Ron. Make me sound good, like a professional. Or was it D, an undead baby skeleton swimming in a fish tank? One of these things was the initial planned vision for the cover of Nevermind. Well, again, a baby swimming with a shark, a mother giving birth to a baby underwater, a baby swimming in a sea of fire, or an undead baby skeleton swimming in a fish tank. Wrong. John Mark, you get to go first, my friend. I'm not having.
Well, judging from I'm surprised that I don't know the answer to this right off the bat. but judging from what I do know about Kurt Cobain and his artwork and his sensibilities, I'm going to say B, the woman giving birth to a baby underwater.
Ronster.
Yeah, I got to go with that too for the same reason. I also don't know the answer, but same logic. Especially knowing where the next album was in utero. I suppose that all ties into that, but yeah, I'm going to go with that. Kurt liked the idea of shocking, that's for sure.
All right. Okay. Lyle.
Wow, I'm having me a sneeze-a-thon. All right. I'm going to go with B also, because it does seem like it's what I remember.
Bloody.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Bats?
I am too. I think that would be really shocking for the time.
Perfect.
And probably
Family?
hard to like capture.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of like, if you go by like the time, like Metallica, they came out with the Load album, and all that was like a bunch of semen underneath and
blood.
Is that true?
Semen and blood.
Yeah, semen and
Very
blood.
famous artist did that. That's the same artist that did Piss Christ. Remember the crucifix that was just soaked in a bathtub of piss? That was the same artist that did the cover for. I can't remember his name.
Holy shit! I literally had to just Google the Load album cover because I knew what it looked like. But
yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's an interesting way to make art, but I think it's the artist's blood and jizz. Heck of a good work if you can get it.
The more you know.
Okay, question 2 is a listener submitted question. So thanks to Denny Kish for sending this one over to me. And now, as always, if you stumble on a story you'd like to see turned into a weird triv question, don't forget to email that over to me at christopher.bizarre@gmail.com. Okay, keep in mind, this is worth 2 points, guys. Don't fuck around. Okay, a couple of months ago, a Nevada woman was arrested for breaking into her old place of employment, which was a dental office. She stole a bunch of shit, ended up getting arrested, yada, yada. Her position at the dental office is hazy. We don't know what she used to do there. She wasn't a dentist by any means. Probably a receptionist or something. I don't know. We don't know. But during her interview with the police, she confessed that she had also previously done this while at the dental office she used to work at, which ended up making her criminal punishment even worse. What else did she confess to? Was it A? She confessed to shooting OnlyFans pornography in the dental chairs during office hours. Is it B?
Dental porn.
She would clock off and sit in the break room and huff laughing gas for hours on end.
Like, who wouldn't?
Oh, they got to do that. That has to be common.
Fuck yeah. Was it C? She stole a collection of children's abstracted teeth, which she turned into sellable jewelry on Etsy.
Well, I like that.
Wow.
Or was it D? She pulled nearly a dozen teeth from an unknowing patient that was under anesthetic.
Like on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Mm-hmm.
And they pulled the bumble's teeth out.
Where did you say this happened? Or did you?
This happened
Nebraska.
in Vegas. Nevada, I said. Excuse me.
I thought you said Nebraska.
Nevada. Sorry if I said Nebraska. It's Nevada.
Nebraska, Nevada.
Well, I'm going to answer for Nebraska.
Well, first off, it's John Mark. What do you got, buddy?
These all seem very viable to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Again, what else did she accidentally confess to that ended up adding to her sentence? Did she shoot pornography? Sorry, I'm saying that lowly because I have my windows open in my house.
So she broke in. Broke in.
This was she admitted she had done this while she worked there.
Okay.
So
what did they arrest her for originally?
Breaking in, she stole like $26,000 and a bunch of checks from the safe. She like knew how to get in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So again, She shot OnlyFans porn in the dental chairs during office hours, would clock off and huff laughing gas for hours on end, stole a collection of children's teeth and sold them as jewelry, or pulled nearly a dozen teeth from an unknowing patient that was under anesthetic.
I'm gonna go with the huffing the gas after hours.
John Mark's going with B. Sitting in the break room, getting high.
Sounded like it was like all hours.
Mm-hmm. Ronster.
I feel like it's probably that, but I like the idea of stealing baby teeth and turning it into an Etsy side hustle. So I have to go with that. Sorry, Cheryl, but that's the way I'm going with that one. It's and it's believable. Like I do believe someone would absolutely fucking do that, and they would sell.
I can straight up see Cheryl
with little Tim Burton like
that's
images.
That's a good question. I can see Cheryl straight up shaking her head right now, like, you motherfucker. I know this girl. Okay.
I like that new trend that's going around like Instagrams and I'm assuming TikToks about like guys like showing off all this stupid shit he spent. He's like, yeah, I spent a lot of stupid shit, in my lifetime, but I've never spent $5 on to see some fucking bitch's pussy on what is it? OnlyFans. And he's like pointing to like his hot rods, his Harleys, his everything. But,
what are you gonna go with, buddy? Is that are you zigging when you're gonna zag?
I'm zigging a little. I seriously, because you have to be, if you're a dental hygienist, I think you have to have a little something off. It takes
huge slam on dental hygienists out of nowhere.
I'm so sorry because I could never do it.
Yeah.
I mean, just getting into somebody's mouth that, like if you have really bad gum disease or something like that, like just that rotten breath, you got to be up in there.
Yeah.
I could totally see somebody I could see a dental hygienist totally fed up with her fucking job and using it to extract teeth that didn't need to come out, but to do it for practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to go with D.
Go with D. Okay, you're going to go with the pulled nearly a dozen teeth from an unknowing patient. Okay. All right, Bats, where are you going to go? Bats, who works in the medical field, might I add. So I'm sure she's running through all of these scenarios.
She is a little off.
I feel like it would be odd for them to have like a storage of children's teeth. She'd be like rooting through the medical waste.
Right.
What about the lost and found? Come on.
Interesting point. Which you would have answered before me, and I know Cheryl does.
I was leaning towards pull the teeth because I thought it was so crazy it couldn't be, and I always lose picking something a little more sensible. So I'm going to go with pulling teeth as well, even though it could be huffing on the job.
Okay.
Well,
that's a good drug.
Well, how would they prove it besides you drilling out the side of your mouth that you've been huffing laughing gas?
She's caught on camera.
I'm tired. Been working.
Okay.
Mouth is a default setting.
It's good stuff.
All right, good luck with this one, motherfuckers. Back in May, Elon Musk announced that the new model of the Tesla Roadster premium electric car coming out this year is going to feature a SpaceX package. Now, what the fuck is a SpaceX package? What does it do for the car? Is it A? It's a screen the size of a business card that will show updated images of unexplored space beamed down from Elon Musk's satellites. Is it B? A SpaceX hood ornament in the shape of a rocket that lights up.
I get it. SpaceX package. Mm-hmm.
The SpaceX package for the car. The fancy. Is it C? 10 small SpaceX rocket thrusters that will take you from 0 to 60 in 1.1 seconds.
That's not.
Or is it D,
Mhm.
all of the fucking above? I do love
Wow.
throwing the all of the aboves in because it's like a big fuck you. All right.
I feel like I need you to repeat the question, and I need to listen
Yes.
very carefully before I answer this one.
Elon Musk announced that the new model of the Tesla Roadster, the premium electric car they have, that's going to be coming out this year, is going to feature an optional SpaceX package. Now, what does that add to the car, the SpaceX package? Again, is the screen that, like at the size of a business card, that beams down pictures of space from their satellites? Is it a SpaceX hood ornament in the shape of a rocket that lights up? Is it 10 small SpaceX rocket thrusters that will take you from 0 to 60 in 1.1 seconds? Or all of the above? John Mark. And when I say it, like, this is a real thing, not like an April Fool's Day joke or anything.
That's why I needed the question again. I was like, did I miss something? Okay, John Mark, what say you?
All of this sounds dumb as shit.
Well, this is what billionaires do when they've already been to space.
Business card size screen, dumb. Rocket shaped fucking hood ornament, dumb. Fucking rocket boosters in your fucking car, dumb.
And Bob Lazar's been doing that for years.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with all the above.
Okay, I figured that was where you were heading, John Mark.
No, but seriously, I don't think that's right because it's all just fucking retarded to me. I mean, I don't want to use that word, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Monster.
I'm leaning toward all of the above too, but I'm trying to think strategically.
Wow,
this is ridiculous.
I hear the struggle.
Well, I'm gonna go with the fucking Rockets. And I'll explain. Well, I guess I already explained. I mean, Bob Ross. Now I got him on the brain. Bob Lazar of Area 51 fame, of course, modified his Corvette to have a jet engine on it, or some sort of hydrogen powered jet rocket, the back of it. And so I know that cars with rockets on them can do about that much speed. I feel like it's either the Rockets or all the above, so I'm going with the Rockets just to not piggyback off John Mark this time.
Okay.
Do you feel that thing in my pocket? It's like a rocket.
Is that a SpaceX package, or are you
like
just
rocket in my pocket, coming to see you?
You've seen Elf on the Shelf? What about rocket in my pocket?
Yeah.
No.
You know what's funny?
Oh yeah, there's a woman here. Sorry.
Ruh-roh.
Sorry.
I'm putting my trousers on.
Canceled.
My appropriate trousers. Sorry.
So, ironically, I did have a story for today's episode, but we never got to it. And it happened to be with Elon Musk and him actually designing, and he's really doing this. He's making a robot. Mm-hmm. And the other part of the story was how AI working with crime and basically solving murders and stuff through AI. Was going to be the topic that I was going to bring to this show tonight, but I guess we don't really need to since we're going with all the above.
Oh shit.
All right. Bats.
Oh, I'm going all of the above. I 100% agree. Like, it's all dumb, and it seems like he wants to go to the max with extra all dumb.
Well, because this is what he does. You know, if you haven't seen it, like he had his Teslas where they danced. They would open up and they'd play a little jingle and dance, and the lighting, you know, would sit there and flicker, do its own little dance thing, and then it'd close all up. And it was an update, you know. So yeah, I can totally see.
A friend of mine, Brian, just gave me a whole bunch of new to me vintage stereo equipment, some really good shit. Good quality turntable, amplifier, tons of speakers, stuff that fits right on in with my life. But he also gave me something called a color organ. I had never heard of it. We have these now with like Bluetooth or like LED strips. They're just sound activated lights, but because this came from the 70s, it's in this speaker cabinet with this sort of grid plastic
My grandma
on
had
it.
one of those.
And
it's amazing. I used to stand in front of that as a kid and just get lost.
Well, it's got it's just Christmas lights behind it, but the grid pattern on the plastic turns it into like disco light diamonds. It's amazing.
It's a kaleidoscope. It's like incredible, isn't it?
I got footage of it. I'll try to remember to post it with the episode.
Oh, that's great.
So are you down
let's move
for
on.
shrooms? Or are you down for acid?
Oh, well, that's what I kept thinking. Is like, oh man, this is the kind of thing that. Well, acid. Yeah, that might have been a little too much for me on acid, but shrooms, absolutely staring into them shits.
I wish I still had that video you sent us when you were at Ellensburg on acid.
Ellensburg?
No, you were downtown Wenatchee.
Wait, edit this out.
Oh yeah,
your mom listens now. Edit this out.
My mom will never listen. No, the last time I did. Oh yeah, it was the Rails and Ales downtown. That was downtown Wenatchee. The last time I did acid. That was the only time I've done acid since
I don't think I could
the 90s.
Yeah.
Was that was the one time you sent us a video, right? I saw like every emotion run over your face in 10 seconds that you had.
I don't remember sending you a video, but I'd like to see that video. Actually, it's got to be somewhere. But that I wonder, was that after I saw that lady drop her cheeseburger?
Yeah.
I saw that.
I thought you were in Ellensburg or something like that when this happened, but I
might have sent you something when I was in Ellensburg, but I didn't do. I've never done acid in Ellensburg that I can remember. But this lady dropped. She just fought her way back from the crazy line of Rails and Ales. It's a packed event. You know, it's all pre-COVID, of course.
Yeah.
And she just bought this like beautiful deluxe burger from the stand that was adjacent. And she got there and she took. I still don't know why this is so goddamn funny. I guess acid, but she just took like one tiny bite, and then she was leaning right up against the rail, and then on the other side of the rail was the competition, and I was up further on the street, so I was looking down, and I just looked at her right at the second that she dropped that big, beautiful, hot, steaming burger out of her hand, and instead of like I think like most of us being like, God damn it, and either maybe thinking about picking it up, it was just like snow on the ground. It did kind of just disintegrate everywhere though, but her response was just, I think that was what made me laugh, even though I felt bad for her. It was just like she was so sad and angry that she just like leaned her arm on the rail and like rested her head on it, staring in my general direction. And I know she saw me laughing. And like her husband was like trying to like, I'll go get you another one. She's like, don't touch me. She dropped this most beautiful burger, and I don't know. I remember laughing so fucking hard. I was with a couple of friends. It's like, dude, you've got to stop laughing at her. She knows you're laughing at her. And I was like, I can't. I gotta go. And it was when I went up to Bug Holly up at the sidecar lounge. But anyway, sorry, diversion. Yeah, I'm not feeling good about my answer there since you all made it a family game. So we'll see.
We will see. Question 4. Tony Hawk sure has had kind of a resurgence in the last few years. I've been enjoying reading about his adventures, being asked if anyone has ever told him he looks like that skateboard dude.
Yeah.
Over and over again. It's pretty funny. At any rate, Tony has just announced a partnership with Liquid Death Water. Remember we did a story on them a while back.
That shit everywhere.
Tony's going to be releasing a very special limited edition line of skateboard decks. Now, they only made 100 of these decks, and even at the price point of $500, they sold out almost instantly. Now, what was special about these skateboard decks? Was it A, they were each infused with Tony Hawk's blood?
Oh, a la Kiss.
Was it B, every single deck had been reclaimed and refurbished from Tony's personal used skateboards?
Oh, that's kind of neat.
Is it C, the hardwood maple used in each deck was grown by Tony on his own property? What, Tony can't grow a fucking tree? Fuck off, Ron.
And he was a skater boy, man.
Or I trimmed my trees, and instead of paying someone $1,000 to haul them off, I'm going to charge you motherfuckers. It's brilliant.
Or is it D? Tony designed each skateboard deck individually using red Sharpie and black Sharpie. Again,
Either way, you made up some dumb shit with this one.
I don't.
But I'm dying to know which one.
Red
Oh,
shirt,
what's the dumbest one? Again,
That is the trick.
500 limited edition. 100 decks sold for $500 a piece. Sold out instantly. What was cool about, or what was unique about them? Was it A, infused with Tony's blood? Every deck had been reclaimed and refurbished from his personal skateboards. The hardwood maple used in each deck was grown by Tony on his land, Ron. Or he designed each skateboard deck individually using a red Sharpie and a black Sharpie.
I'm gonna go with blood because that's the coolest.
Ooh, blood. Okay, I'm putting down for A.
Well, yeah, I mean that, but like Kiss did that in the 70s, right? Where they supposedly put blood in the red of the comic book, the Kiss comic book. But that just doesn't seem like Tony Hawk's vibe. Like Tony Hawk is like Mr. Clean Cut, family friendly. Like it doesn't seem like in brand. So I can't go with that one. Cutting his trees down on his prop.
You're leaning towards the sea, aren't you now?
Well, we all got to trim. This is tough. I'd like the idea of recycling some of his old skateboards, but that almost seems like sacrilegious as well. And remind me the last one.
He designed each skateboard with a red Sharpie and a black Sharpie.
Yeah, I don't remember him being terribly artistic, but I could be wrong. Well, I think I'm going to I'm so tempted to go with the trees, but I think I'm going to go with the recycled skateboards.
Refurbished, reclaimed.
I'm almost rooting for the trees, just for the laugh of it.
Me too. Lyle.
You know how skateboard decks are made, yeah? You ever see that TV show called How It's Made?
I'm not familiar.
I'm stuck between the two of refurbished decks, which would be easy to do. You gotta know he's got more than 100 laying around. And plus, it would give meaning. I'd fuck yeah, I would pay $500 for a deck that used to be owned by Tony Hawk. You know what I mean? That he shredded on, did some half pipe work on. Fuck yeah, dude. Especially if there's a picture of it. Just went up $700.
You going with the B, or you zigging?
I don't understand the D.
He designed the design on the back of the skateboard deck.
Get
was
that drop.
Each one he did himself with the red Sharpie and a black Sharpie.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. I don't know. Because it could be both. And he did that. And he would do that, I think, out of just making them completely unique to themselves.
Yeah.
Oh. So I'm gonna go with D.
All right, you're going with D. All right, Bats. Where you going?
I wanted to say the repurposed decks, but man, the blood one's really bothering me. I feel like that's gross, and I don't feel like it's him too, because I feel like he's wholesome, but man.
Your gut says blood.
My gut says blood.
Whoa,
Right.
I'm going with blood.
I'm putting you down for an A. All right, give me just a moment to tabulate here. Boop, 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 boop. Talk amongst yourselves. Don't be
I
shy.
don't want to own anyone's blood.
Hey, when Chris says that, I imagine him wearing booby tassels, and he's shaking his tassel and then counting it that way. 1, 2, 3, 4.
A titty abacus. Yeah, I think Lyle might be onto something where, because I was trying to think, well, I don't recall Tony Hawk ever like designing his own like drawing, but I could be wrong. He may have done that all along, but just making them unique would be pretty cool. Sharpied, yeah.
Oh fuck yeah, that'd be so cool.
Okay,
I
all
used to
right.
have Tony Hawk decks, and I've had a couple Corey O'Brien decks of the old school that I wish I could still get. I might actually buy it just to have it, throw it on the wall. But it was the old Corey O'Brien with the skeleton and the pumpkin.
I don't remember that name. I got my old Christian Hosoi board somewhere around my parents'
I remember
house.
that board. I remember that deck very well. Corey O'Brien. It's a flaming skull thing. Yeah.
Yes.
It looks like a comet.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yep.
All right.
Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The album cover to Nevermind was not actually as Kurt Cobain initially planned. His initial vision for the album cover was a mother giving birth underwater. You guys were all absolutely right.
I remember that.
Couldn't fool you guys on that one.
Yeah. I can almost picture it.
Almost. Question 2 was a listener submitted question.
Could you imagine if it was his wife, though? Yuck. Like, hole. I don't know.
Holes.
Like, hole.
Just pool hole?
Just kind of Courtney Love.
Better than one of those filthy fucking dental hygienists. I'll tell you that much. Those guys are off. They're off their fucking rocker.
Mm-hmm.
Just imagining that fucking clown makeup and that's happening.
Well, they hadn't even met at the time, so.
That's true.
Okay. Speaking of the dental hygienist, or maybe dental hygienist, we're not sure. A couple of months ago, a Nevada woman was arrested for breaking into her old place of employment and stealing a bunch of stuff. When she was giving a confession to the police, though, she also told them that at one point in her previous employment, she pulled nearly a dozen teeth from an unwilling and unknowing patient that was under anesthetic. Wowza.
Damn.
That seems like something that
they are off.
Would have been like, hey, what happened here? Right?
Yeah,
like
for sure. Well, that might be why she's an ex-employee.
Probably.
But she should have been like already arrested and in prison for that shit.
Yeah,
how did that not?
I don't know that they haven't released any details on that. And there may have been like some shady business going on where she was allowed to do procedures she wasn't supposed to be doing or something to that effect.
Is this a dozen teeth from
what
one
happened
person
here?
or from
Yes.
different people?
One person.
Think about that. There's not that many teeth in somebody's mouth. Really.
Maybe it's somebody that was like, they're taking all of them. And they were just like, hey, Carol, you want to get in here? Have a
I don't know.
I don't know either, man. It sounds bad. All of it sounds bad. But anyways.
And for the record, I've only been to a few dentists, actually one, and their dental hygienist was completely awesome. Yeah.
Wow. I was like, who hurt you, Lyle?
Just in my mindset, I was getting deep cleaned, and I was just thinking, who the fuck would like to do this for a living?
It seems like a rough gig.
Somebody hate it, I mean, especially after because I mean, I'm a good case. I don't have that bad of teeth, but man, I've seen some fucked up shit on the internet and some fucked up teeth, dude. So I can imagine it had to take somebody. I couldn't do it. There's no way.
It's funny. I just got a pop up on my phone from Sarah Ray Shields to the How Bizarre podcast. I figured I should read it. It says, you've binged too much of this podcast when you can't wait to see what the crew has to say about the Nirvana news today. Well, you won't be disappointed. We've talked about it and featured it in the news quiz.
That's funny. Question 3. Back in May, Elon Musk announced that the new model of the Tesla coming out is going to come equipped with an optional feature, the SpaceX package, which is going to have fucking 10 small rocket thrusters that will take you from 0 to 60 in 1.1 seconds. Ronster.
Oh, just the rockets.
Just the rockets.
You know what really swayed me from the D was the business card size TV. Like that seems like a step back in time.
If you think about it, it's the size of a cell phone, like a smaller cell phone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I imagine it being in addition to the giant fucking thing that they have in the front anyways, right?
It should be a TV that's projected onto the windshield. I've done that technology. Okay, so is this can't possibly be Street League, right?
I don't know. I don't know the logistics behind that. I'm not sure.
The old like 4x4s you had to get out and like lock and unlock the hubs to go from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive. Maybe this thing is like that. That'll keep it street legal, where you have to actually like get out and switch on the fucking rockets right out of Maniac Mansion. We may have insane people at the top of the money pyramid.
I was gonna say, God bless Elon Musk.
Well, it's fun to watch. I would rather watch kooks like this than the rich people we had growing up. Like, what did Donald Trump do when he was rich? Just make garish. I feel like Donald Trump's idea of being rich was just like sitting in a room that was all gold, and then having people watch him sit in a room that was all gold. Was like, I guess. I mean, yeah, I know about the women, and you had other things and golfing, but it's just like I'd much rather watch someone build a rocket car and take us to space than,
and fucking make flamethrowers.
Mm-hmm.
A flamethrower.
The dude's just kind of doing his own thing, ain't he?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
I
living out like
watching Richie Rich.
Yeah. I don't know. I know a lot of people hate Elon. I haven't gotten to where I hate him yet. I think he's a kooky, interesting dude, and I think he's fun to watch.
I think he's pretty goddamn annoying. That's what I think.
Well,
And I don't think he's half the fucking genius that he portrays himself to be.
sounds like somebody who
I'll
works
just leave it
for
at that.
Jeff Bezos might say.
I'll just leave it at that.
John Mark has a little flesh in the game now. Okay, let's move on here, guys. We're getting long in the tooth. For fuck's sake. Okay. So as it stands right now, I believe the score is John Mark 1, Ron 2, Lyle 3, and Bats 3. With one question.
How is this reality?
Interesting game. Yeah.
Don't know what's
Whoever
happened,
John Mark's
but
playing
let's-
for just asked himself that same question.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Okay. Last question. Question for Tony Hawk. Made the news again because he has a partnership with Liquid Death Water. And he has, is that right? Liquid Death? Yeah. Water. He made 100 skate decks and sold them for $500 a piece. And what was special about these skate decks was each was infused with his blood in the paint.
Interesting.
Yeah, John Mark and Bats
John
got that
Mark
correct, which
came
means
back.
Bats won tonight.
Wow.
With death.
Wow.
Good job.
Riggs.
Rick.
I call bullshit.
Yeah, Toad's right.
Well, congrats, Bats. Liquid Death is a great example for many a business in terms of successful marketing, right? Canned water that
that's all
sells
it
like
is.
a motherfucker.
Water in a can.
And I see people drinking
Some
it
good
all
fucking-
over. Like,
Yeah.
I see it all over. I've never tried it. I'm dying to try
water
it.
in a can.
I know, but
No, it's water in a can. Don't try
well,
it.
here's the thing. I sometimes still buy bottled water because, I don't know if I'm going is going to have clean water or readily available water. So I get buying water. I also understand that not all bottled water tastes the same. Some people think water is water. I think those people are aliens. There is a tremendous difference between one water and the next. Like, I hate Evian or whatever the fuck. I hate most spring waters. Arrowhead is my least favorite bottled water. I tend to like not distilled, but purified water. That's drinking water. So I there. Who knows? Maybe it just
Let's
has
do
a
some
special
research
taste.
on Liquid Death to see if
I'm
it's
down.
actually from a fucking tap or if it's from you know what I'm saying?
I think I
Because-
looked at it's mountain water, isn't it? Isn't that what it says?
Oh, that's
somewhere?
what they say, Ron. That's what they say.
Could
But
be from
how
a
many,
tap
How many
in a
stories
house that
have you
lives
read
on a
about
mountain.
about bottled water brands that are like, oh yes, our fresh spring water, and it's like they fucking like just literally are pulling it from a fucking tap.
Uh-huh. There's a spring in the sink.
No.
Boing.
It comes from a house that comes from a tap that's up in
Yep.
India.
That's up on a mountain, huh?
There once was a
Okay.
I'm
well,
surprised anyone bought it
congratulations.
after the whole fucking Hotel Cecil incident.
corpse water.
Corpse
Ugh.
water, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, is that our brand? Is that our brand we're gonna release? Like corpse water, like
Our
liquid death.
competitive brand.
Oh my God, liquid death. It's corpse,
picture
it's
of the
corpse water.
Hotel
It's literally
Cecil.
corpse water.
All right, you guys, listen up. So, Bats, I'm going to give you the option here. You can come back for the championship and play for yourself, or you can be represented by the guys. 100% your choice.
I should come back.
I think she knows what she has to choose at this point, right?
Yeah.
One of you still needs somebody to play for then. So we will do one more round of regular news quiz next week to fill that void, and then we'll do our championship round.
Sounds good.
Okay, Bats, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure. I cannot wait for you to come back and win this. And the conspiracies can fly
again.
away.
It'll be that easy.
No spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Bats. We'll
I'll
talk
wait
soon.
for that new country album to drop.
It's gonna be lit.
Yeah, we gotta add auto tune to them shits.
All right, I need to use. I need a quick little break before we get into album. I did not anticipate going this long.
Okay, well, we'll do a 6.5 hour podcast tonight's cool.
What are you scared, boy?
I guess I better use one too.
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
Oh,
Lord Jesus Christ in I can start if you want, or I cannot start if you want.
Start for us.
You start.
Well, I will say this. I liked the album pretty much immediately. You know, it was just a straight up good old rock album from start to finish. Of course, we're talking about Face to Face. And help me with the title again, Chris.
Ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. And, you know, I'm a big fan of, along with or maybe in spite of my love for complex arrangements and crazy musical trickery that happens in prog rock, as we've talked about, I'm a huge fan of simple, catchy hooks. And this album has tons of that. And, you know, it can be 3 notes. And it often is. It just ties the whole thing together, and that's what sticks in your head. And the singer even sometimes does that with his voice. Like the lilts in his voice they're almost like notes what you would do with, you know, a little bit of a lead guitar. Like he's a clever melody maker that way, I found. where especially in The Devil, that song. I can never remember the full title of that song. God is a Man.
Yeah, The Devil You Don't Know.
He really sings in an interesting lilt in this, and I think it's very similar. If you go back and listen, let me know if that jumps out at you, where he kind of follows the guitar lick. He's not following the guitar lick per se, but he's singing with that same. I don't know, just lilt is the only word I can think to describe it. But and I like that, and I think he's clever with it. Totally different singer, but I think another singer that did that really well was Ronnie James Dio, where he just found these little notes in between to sing in between the other notes. Like he really works with and almost against sometimes the rhythm so that it does stand out a little bit like a lead. But there really wasn't anything I disliked about the album. I liked the singer's voice. It's funny because I kept thinking, like who the fuck does this guy remind me of? And I was going through all these punk bands in my head, but I wasn't getting anywhere. And then it kind of jumped out at me just today, actually, and it came out of left field. It's definitely not a sound-alike situation, more like certain tones and just parts of his voice, parts of his throat, I think remind me of John Bush, who originally sang for Armored Saint, a power metal band from back in the 80s, but he also, in the mid-90s, after Belladonna left Anthrax, I don't know how many albums they put out, but they put out an album with him as the singer, and one of them was The Sound of White Noise, which I think is a highly underrated Anthrax album, incidentally. Of course, it's got some grunge-inspired elements coming out when it did. And they had a pretty big hit with Only and, sort of Alice in Chainsy. Anyway, I think my favorite songs on the album were Overcome, Burden, I Know What You Are, and God is a Man. And I think those were some of your favorites too, if I remember right. Yeah. And good stuff. I agreed with everything you had to say about it. Super intricate licks, but it all felt loose enough to still be called just, rock and roll to me. And good lyrics, smart. I keep going back to the hooks. To me, this is a very hook-oriented album in terms of the music, but also technical. It's like, I think I was starting to lose interest a little bit, maybe 5 or so songs into it a couple of times, but maybe there's a couple songs where I felt, well, that's kind of generic and forgettable, but even those had some element or hook that pulled me back in. I think Prodigal was one of those. Like I really loved, the song didn't do anything for me till the end. And then I really loved how they ended that song. It was sort of a tricky looping kind of rhythm. I love that shit. And I can definitely see why this is your favorite drummer. Pretty fucking intricate and technical shit. And the bass lines were really well done in tangent with that. Prominent without being too busy. Yeah. You know, it's really easy for bass lines to get a little carried away and self-indulgent, of course, but it's, I think the whole thing's a well-balanced meal. And after I listened to it a few times, I wanted to go back and see what their more like traditional albums sounded like, because I kept thinking, if you hadn't told me like the story of this album, I just would have thought it was, I still would have loved it. And I would have thought, I couldn't imagine anybody calling it a bad record, let alone getting that kind of hate, like a thumbs down middle finger through a whole show that somebody paid to go give you. By the way, that was a live scenario. So I checked out a couple of the albums you guys, you and John Mark recommended, something that was a bit more classic for them. It was definitely a change in their sound. I mean, it's hard to miss. I found it was mostly from the vocal standpoint, though. Like, I can see why you thought that your goth friend had maybe played the record on the wrong speed, because it is he's a little more throaty, a little more some of I thought it was a little more of the bratty punk, not nasally, but it was more in that register and more with that delivery
stuff.
1 2 1 2 3 4.
And he didn't really do that with this was more of straight ahead sort of rock tone. And it reminded me a lot of the music I was hearing, speaking of Tony Hawk, on skate videos of the late 80s, maybe early 90s. So I also dug it on that level as well. It was very skate rock to me.
Yeah, I could hear that for sure.
But that's what I thought about it. Good pick. And I really like it. I've listened to it quite a few times, and I will continue to listen to it. I can't say that the other stuff has grabbed me yet. Like when I just wanted to hear it for comparison's sake. So I didn't listen to a lot of it, but I'm definitely a fan of this album.
Awesome. Anyone else?
I will go next.
Okay.
And I would like to say that this album, listening to it in the context that it came out in 1999, took me on a journey backwards and forwards in time.
Do tell.
So, right from the get-go, when I first listened to, like, I don't know, the first one or two songs, I was like, this reminds me of something. And the first band that it reminded me of was Baroness. Have you listened to them at all?
No.
I think I've recommended them to you before, years ago. I bought one of their albums, Purple. And Baroness on paper is a band that I feel like I should like a lot. But there's something about, I think it's mostly the singer's voice that I don't like, but it's different. It's a little different than this record of Face to Face, because like I totally dig the vocals on this album, but just his delivery reminds me of the singer for Baroness in a certain way.
Yeah, they're newer. Baroness is a newer band, yeah?
Yes, they are. I think their first album came out in like the early 2000s. So I was thinking, when I listened to this album, I was like, I wonder if one or two people in the original incarnation of Baroness listened to this album, and this was like one of their kind of influences, like, hey, let's like start a band and do some music, because it sounds to me like it very definitely could be. Like, I haven't seen any interviews or like seen anything anywhere where that I could point to where that was like a fact, but it just seems like when I listen to it, it seems like that could be a thing. So
that's cool. I'll have to check this out.
I would encourage you to check out the Baroness album Purple to begin with.
Okay.
And maybe the song, God, what is it called? Let me look here real quick. Ron, edit this out.
Make John Mark sound good.
Well, don't make it funny, and I will. Problem with Chris is he always make his fuck ups are always funny.
I'm gonna say the song "Shock Me" by Baroness off the album Purple.
I'll spin it, man.
And So that was the one thing that was like, oh, I feel like Bareness might have been influenced by this album and maybe some other stuff from the same time, right?
Sure.
And then I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it was God is a Man that I was like, this sounds like fucking Catherine Wheel. I feel like these guys might have been influenced a little bit by Catherine Wheel for this album, because like you were mentioning how they were kind of wanting to change their sound a little bit. And this was in the late 90s, and Catherine Wheel kind of hit their stride in the mid 90s. And I feel like maybe Catherine Wheel was a band that one of these guys or a couple of them were listening to at the time, or like slightly influenced by that. So yes, definitely Chrome. So I would say, and God is a Man, I think it makes me think, I want to say it's the song Crank, but you know what happened? Was that I immediately went and bought the album Chrome by Catherine Wheel off of iTunes after listening to this album, because it was like, this really makes me think of that album, and that album is kind of important to me.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I fucking have to hear this again, and I just fucking bought it instead of going to YouTube or anything. I was just like, I'm just gonna buy this and listen to it. And I can hear little guitar stuff like cha-chung, cha-chung kind of things, and like little vocal patterns and stuff that definitely seem to me that it could be influenced by Catherine Wheel. Because the Catherine Wheel, this album Chrome came out in '95, and so they had a couple years to maybe like percolate some of this stuff, maybe, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I that's one of the two of the main takeaways I took from this was like the influence that they could have possibly had when writing this, and then another band's influences from them writing their material. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And the immediate standout to me was after you talking about that song God is a Man. Like that was the song that really stood out to me. That one song. That's the one song I remember, like the hook and the chorus. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
And Prodigy, the end of Prodigy, also, like Ron was saying, the end of Prodigy really stood out to me. I was like, wow, this is fucking great shit. And also, I think it is, let me just take a look here. Is it the song? It's one of the later songs on the album.
Was it more upbeat?
Face to face, where's the F's in my thing? There it is.
Do you guys ever do the song like ABC?
Run in circles. Run in circles.
Yeah.
There is a riff. There's like, I think it's like the second main riff in Run in Circles, where it kind of changes time signature a little bit. It's like ding, ding, ding. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
That definitely reminded me of Catherine Wheel as well. So I would definitely recommend you check out the album Chrome by Catherine Wheel. But like Ron was saying, there was the production on this was really cool, because like most of the songs kind of start out as like, you know, this is a rock and roll song, or this is a rock song, or this is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they would like do something different, like towards the end or the middle, and it was like the production would like turn into some weird sort of like and just like these weird sounds and different stuff. And I just really fucking dug how it played with your sort of preconceptions in each song, like, oh, this is how this song's gonna go.
Don't check out of this song just yet, or there's more.
Exactly, and that was really fucking cool.
That's awesome.
Kvelertak is good at that too, where you might get like, okay, I'm ready for the next song, but then they'll just shift, and you'll be like, oh, fuck.
Exactly.
Why couldn't the whole song just be this 30-second fade out that it is? It's like, I want that to loop forever. Yeah, Kvelertak's got a lot of that. But really interesting about Catherine Wheel. I hadn't made that connection, but I can totally see it, especially Crank and maybe like Ursa Major.
There's a few songs off that album Chrome that really made me like that album in particular, because I think that's that time that maybe those guys were listening to that kind of stuff and was like, you know, a few years later, like, oh, maybe we should kind of branch out into doing something a little bit different. And that kind of like, one other thing that I wanted to bring up about Catherine Wheel before I get off the subject, that you should probably know, Chris, is that the singer and kind of like probably the lead songwriter in Catherine Wheel. His name is Rob Dickinson, and he is paternal cousins with Bruce Dickinson, who is the singer for Iron Maiden.
Yeah, that's cool. Wow. Huh.
Yeah, John Mark pointed out one time, I think when we were talking about torture devices, he was like, they're cousins, but they also have bands named after famous torture devices.
Right, I remember this. Yeah.
That's a pretty cool little insider tidbit.
I remember that now. That's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to checking out these bands that remind you for sure.
Yeah, definitely check out that Chrome album. It's one of my favorites too. A little more shoegazy, but definitely has some of those elements. Yeah. Curious what Lyle thinks about this. This isn't necessarily music.
Sweet.
That's all right. We rambled.
Well, no, I mean, it's short and sweet. When you brought up and mentioned that it was an art album, I picked that up quite a bit. You could obviously tell because every song was dramatically different. You know what I mean? Like
for sure. Yeah.
You almost couldn't even tell they were the same band in some songs.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of variation. Mm-hmm.
And so I dug that. I'm gonna sound real fucking like a dick about this one, but I was like laying down listening to it, and when I got to the end, because I couldn't see my computer, I couldn't see the screen or anything.
Yeah.
And it was playing an old school what was the Offspring. I was like, God, yeah, this sounds good.
now they're cooking.
Like, finally.
It's not the album. Damn it. I've gone too far.
I get it. Yeah, it's a different sound sound for sure.
Expecting it. I was hoping for it.
Yeah.
Because he told me, that they played an Offspring, and the drummer did, and I was like,
you might want to check out some of their other albums. Yeah, I think it's probably more in that vein. Although the Offspring are fairly distinct, actually, for a band that came out of that era and that whole scene. They definitely have a distinct sound.
Mm-hmm.
But all the songs sound the same, when you get down to it, brass tacks. I mean, they all sound the same.
Oh, way, oh. I haven't heard the Offspring in fucking forever.
Right. But Jesus was a man or whatever, God was a man.
God was a man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I dug that one. I mean, there were.
It's hard to not like that. I think that might be the hit. Was that the hit? Was there a hit?
That was their
single.
The record label wanted to push that as the single, and so they sent it off to all the radio stations, and they were getting backlash because people thought it meant God is a man.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Well, you know why? It's because there was a lot of feminists out there that were doing the same damn thing, but opposite.
Yeah, well, they just didn't get the message. The message to me and the tone of it is pretty clear, but knee-jerk reactions.
Totally. Well, glad you gave it a spin, man.
Oh yeah, no, I'm listening to all of them. It's just one of those things. It's not my genre,
totally.
Yeah,
I get it.
You more than anybody. I was curious to see what you thought because it's like I don't know if Lyle listens to any of these kinds of bands.
I never did like that, like
Green Day and
stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, Green Day wasn't even around. You were talking about 1999. It was more in the ground stage,
Green Day was around. They were right. They were just
Green Day
after.
was absolutely around.
Yeah. They didn't get big. They got big, I think, like right around 94. I feel like I was just out of high school when, what was that first? Shut my eyes and close my eyes.
Well, you're talking about
Dookie was hitting around
Dookie was
94.
Dookie was their breakout album, but
No,
they had
but
albums
I think
before that I heard at parties, like when I was, just
like
out of high
Kerplunk.
school, like
Kerplunk
from Ozfest. Once they played in Ozfest, they blew the fuck up, and it was same with like people like
Green Day played Ozfest.
I'm pretty sure. If not, it was one of those
Seems
festivals.
like an odd fit.
They blew the fuck up because they were like, I want to say way younger generation from us, being our age.
Green Day was huge in the early 90s, dude.
Yeah.
Hate to break it to you.
I know. What was that first hit? It wasn't.
It was Basket. Was it?
No,
Basket
that one
Case?
came.
No.
It was the Longview. It's the one where he's
No,
just sitting in the apartment. That one came first. That one was the first
Do
MTV
you have the
hit.
time to listen to me whine? That was their first radio hit.
No, Longview was definitely before. Let's look it up.
All right. Okay.
Dude, anything off Dookie, they had like 4 or 5 hits off that at least, right? Like,
I
and
feel
that was all the same
I feel
year.
like, well, what? Okay, so we had Longview, then there was Basket Case, or whichever one came first. What else?
Maybe it is Longview.
I saw it when I come around. Yeah, that was kind of like their what was the Def Leppard album? Hysteria, where like almost every song on the album became a hit at some point. The only reason I remember Longview being, I mean, I could be wrong, but
You're not.
I picture where I'm at when I'm I see a thing, and I remember sitting on my ex-girlfriend's. It's funny to call her an ex. My girlfriend at the time. I was sitting on her parents' couch, and it came on. I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Dookie
nice.
was released in '94, and there was immediately half the songs on that immediately became radio hits.
Yeah. And the first time I saw the video for Basket Case, I was already in my own apartment. I still think both of those videos are great, but I think Basket Case is one of the best videos of the later 90s.
It's time being so old to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You probably, it was early 90s.
Ding, ding, ding. Speaking of good bass line. Bing,
Yeah,
ding,
it's
ding,
a great one.
ding, ding, ding.
I remember they blew up from a festival because everybody fucking knew them.
Well, I know they played Lollapalooza. That would have been 95, I bet, that they were at Lollapalooza out there at the Gorge. Because my girlfriend at the time went, and
hell, fucking Rage Against the Machine.
Smashing Pumpkins.
Fucking even Tool played in like second stages at Lollapalooza.
Tool was that would have been 93, I think, when Tool was.
Yeah, something like that.
They started on the small stage, and then Sober blew up, and then they moved to the big stage by the time I saw them.
I have
Rage Against the Machine too.
Yeah, I have a couple stickers from that concert that are on my guitar case.
You were at the Lollapalooza that Tool played at?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well, we kind of lost touch for a while there, so we were probably at a lot of shows together without knowing it.
There's one that Soundgarden played at, Lollapalooza, and that Metallica fucking played at. They headed it off.
My friend Mark Pickrell from the Screaming Trees post, he's been posting a lot of cool shit on his Facebook page. He came across these old cassettes like in his collection. One of them was a copy of a Soundgarden show from, I think, 86 or 87 that was taped in Ellensburg. They were playing with Faith No More. I don't know if the Trees were playing at that point. They must have been. But anyway, it was a decent captured tape, and Mark was the one who sent that tape to Greg Ginn from Black Flag / SST Records, and that's how Greg Ginn signed Soundgarden to SST. And that's what basically started their career. I had no idea until he posted that today.
Holy shit.
From that fucking cassette that he just came across. This little clip, like, this is the cassette. I want to hear that show so bad. But, well, let's get on out of here before we hit the... Oh,
one last thing I wanted to say. I'm sorry to interrupt. Last thing I wanted to say. I got a couple of really nice messages from fans. I got a really nice message from one of our fans named Joel about some similar experiences and concerts we went to possibly at the same time. That was really fucking cool. And I got a couple of comments and a couple other messages. It was just great. It was really nice to get some positive feedback to that. And I didn't really get anyone that like listened to the album. But I got people that knew the band and really loved it. They already knew the album, so that was kind of cool. So it was a good experience. I'm really glad we're doing this. And
sometimes you go like 10 years without listening to a record, and then someone will just like bring it up, and then you put it in, you fall in love with all over again. That's just as exciting when you return somebody. I had a weird like musical sort of accidental connection thing happen yesterday. Yesterday, Charlie Watts died from the Rolling Stones. Yeah. I didn't know that when I woke up because I hadn't turned on. I've been doing this thing where I don't look at my social media until at least afternoon. And I get up and I do other rituals to start my day off on a better foot, as they say. And one of those foots was me just wanting to hear some fucking Stones. So I pulled out a bunch of records. And one of my favorite Rolling Stones records is Goat's Head Soup. I popped that in and just fucking... And I remember thinking, like, God, what an underrated drummer. Like, I may have even said it out loud. I was drinking some coffee, finishing up a painting. It was a fun morning, just cranking with that same new hi-fi stuff that Brian gave me. Just cranking Rolling Stones records when I was done with all that, I finally logged on, and then I saw that Charlie Watts had passed, and I'm like, huh,
That's weird.
interesting. And I've been doing what a lot of people are probably doing now, which is digging out all their Stones records. But Goat's Head Soup, y'all. Anyone that I don't understand. There's so many people I know that just can't get into the Rolling Stones. Maybe try that one. But I think they're more of a
That's
album.
one of them. I'm one of them.
I remember that. And it's funny because there's some, who was it that did the whole Exile on Main Street? Like they did their own version. Was that
Pussy Galore?
Pussy Galore? And you love that, right?
That one is one they never actually officially released. I think it was only on cassette, and it's like super hard to find.
But you don't like the
original.
original.
Probably on YouTube if I look for it, but
yeah.
I don't know. Like I just like have never been able to get into Stones. Like I've heard all the songs on the radio that they play, and
that might be your problem.
Like, maybe
because I didn't like a lot of those songs. I still don't like a lot of those songs. Like Jumpin' Jack Flash, Satisfaction, Brown Sugar, even, and Sticky Fingers is one of my favorite Stones albums. But that's what I was saying. They're an album band. And I didn't get into the Stones until I really started just listening to their records. But because those gems they never make it to the fucking radio.
Yeah,
there's one of those bands. I know Lyle likes the Stones.
Led Zeppelin, yeah, fucking high level.
Classic shit. Well, let's get on out of here. And you have the reins next week, Lyle. I'm excited to see what your pick is.
I'm confused. Do I need to tell you now, or do I gotta wait till
No.
Do that next week? No. For the love of God. 2 hours and 46 minutes. In fact, we might have to skip. We may skip a week because it is Comet Week, and so you might have 2 weeks. I'll let you know. So either way. All right, y'all. Tune in next week. We will definitely be talking about 9/11. Two people reached out and told me that I forgot to say that last week. I do that from time to time, and it does feel like bad luck. So I'm going to say it twice.
This man was in a car accident, ladies and gents.
Next week, 9/11. That's coming up. All right. Have a good week, y'all.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
You never forget who you were inside when you first heard the term Olympical. That old saying.